Memory vault dust stretched out beneath a blistering sun. A convoy of over 100 survivors trudged forward like ants hauling their burdens. The blood moon hung low in the sky, and anomalies had swept across the world, turning all cities into forbidden zones for humanity. Having fled the Shanghai base, they'd wandered the wasteland for an entire month, scavenging for supplies day in and day out. Wang Dong gasped for air, his lungs burning with every breath. Standing 1.8 meters tall, he was emaciated, thin as a dried stalk of hemp. He'd only survived this long thanks to Wang Chong, his nearly 2-meter-tall, broad-shouldered elder brother who carried a massive backpack and shielded him from harm. The brothers had lost their van and most of their supplies half a month prior, forcing them to trudge on foot alongside the convoy. Wang Dong clutched a crossbow in one hand, a dagger strapped to his thigh, and a travel bag slung over his back holding only a meager stock of rations. Within this group, he was among the weakest, old, sick, and frail. "Hey everyone, rest here for 30 minutes. Then we move out to scavenge supplies." The convoy ground to a halt, a voice blaring from the speaker of a modified off-road vehicle at the front. At the word of a reprieve, every survivor trailing behind sagged with relief. For those marching on foot, numb eyes flickered with a faint spark of life, as if they'd been pulled back from the brink of collapse. Wang Dong collapsed onto the dirt, only to hear tiny scratching sounds coming from inside his backpack the second he relaxed. He jolted upright and unzipped the bag at once. Nestled amid instant noodles, compressed biscuits, and medical supplies, a palm-sized turtle scraped frantically at the lid of a plastic food container, kicking its 4 little legs non-stop. This tiny creature had been his pet long before the anomalies descended. Ever since the Blood Moon catastrophe, every animal had either perished or mutated into feral abominations. Only this turtle remained quiet and utterly unique. "Dongzi, want some water?" A rough, calloused hand stretched out a half-full bottle of mineral water toward him. Watching Xiangzi's simple, honest grin, a warm surge of affection swelled in Wang Dong's chest. This was his brother, Wang Chong, Xiangzi for short. Though his gaze often looked dull and vacant, their bond was unbreakable as blood kin. They were close in age. Wang Dong was 22, Xiangzi a year older. If the world hadn't ended, they'd be barely older than newly graduated college students. Xiangzi's skin was coarse from years of hard labor, his palms lined with thick calluses from constant work. Wang Dong, by contrast, bore no marks of physical toil. He'd always been a sickly, scrawny young man even before the apocalypse. "You drink it yourself, Xiangzi. Rest a bit after you finish. I've got water right here." Wang Dong patted the canteen hanging at his waist as he spoke. Xiangzi thought for a moment and nodded. "All right, then rest up. I'll cook some noodles nearby." He pulled a metal pot off his backpack and retrieved a portable outdoor stove set, preparing to light a fire. "Save the gas, Chong. I spotted dry firewood around here. I'll go gather some." Wang Dong stood to leave, but Xiangzi's voice called after him before he'd walked more than a few steps. "Dongzi." Wang Dong turned to see Xiangzi lumbering after him, clutching an axe. "What's wrong?" "I'm coming with you." "No need," Wang Dong said. "I'll just look nearby. Won't wander far. No need to guard me." He pointed toward a withered grove of trees roughly 30 meters away, full of dead branches. Xiangzi stared in the direction Wang Dong indicated. "I'll get the wood. You stay here and rest." With that, he turned and strode toward the small forest, axe in hand. Wang Dong watched his towering, retreating figure, his heart settling with complete ease. He thought to himself, he's so reliable. Shaking his head, he walked back to his backpack to dig a small pit in the dirt. He couldn't let their supplies out of his sight. If they were stolen, he and Xiangzi would starve. Without food, they'd lack the strength to keep up with the convoy, and they'd never outpace others during scavenging runs. One ironclad rule governed every convoy in the age of anomalies: never fall behind. To lag meant certain death. When abominations appeared, you didn't need to run faster than the monsters, only faster than everyone else around you. Back beside his bag, Wang Dong scanned the other survivors. Their eyes glinted with ravenous greed, fixed firmly on his backpack. But when they caught sight of the crossbow in his hand and the massive silhouette of Xiangzi returning, every hungry gaze dropped in submission. Xiangzi stood guard beside their belongings, staring coldly at the crowd until all of them looked away. A handful of small children stared at him pitifully, but one sharp, icy sweep of his eyes sent them scrambling to hide behind their parents. Only then did he relax his glare. In this brutal wasteland, every grain of food represented the brothers' last hope of survival. He couldn't afford blind compassion. He had to prioritize himself and Xiangzi first. Besides, Most of their supplies had been scavenged single-handedly by Qiangzi. He had no right to give any of it away. He sighed quietly to steady his mind, then pulled his dagger and knelt to dig the pit. The soil here was soft and loose, easy to carve through. His knife, bought long before the end of the world, was sturdy and sharp, and he finished the hole in minutes. Once done, he sat beside it and sipped water from his canteen, observing the refugees scattered all around. Most had gaunt, sun-browned faces, baked dark by the unrelenting sun. Those lucky enough to have food ate greedily, while the rest lingered nearby, swallowing hard as they watched. At the front of the convoy sat a black off-road vehicle, the words Hope scrawled in large paint across its doors. This was the Hope Convoy, a fitting name for the dying world. Parked beside it were a second red SUV and a yellow school bus. The owners of these three vehicles formed the convoy's core. Sequence Awakeners, humans gifted with supernatural powers. Scratch, scratch. The tiny scraping noises from his backpack continued. Wang Dong walked over, opened the turtle's plastic container, and lifted the squirming little creature out. Looks like someone's hungry, huh? He pulled a small plastic plate from the side pocket of his backpack, then tipped a pinch of leftover turtle feed onto it. The turtle wriggled even more wildly in his hands. He'd cared for it for nearly half a year, and the little reptile knew exactly where its food came from. He set it beside the plate, and the turtle lunged forward ravenously, stretching its neck to snap up the pellets before retracting to swallow them. Its neck extended and shrank repeatedly, a silly sight that almost made Wang Dong laugh. Slap. He smacked his own cheek hard to snap himself out of idle thoughts. This was no time for trivial distractions. Once the turtle finished eating, he placed it back in its container and stowed the bag in the shaded side of his backpack. A rustling sound pulled his gaze to the side. Qiangzi was dragging a thick, dry log, nearly 10 centimeters wide, back to their campsite. "You're back, Chong." Wang Dong walked over and handed him the canteen. "Why cut such a huge log?" Qiangzi took a big gulp of water and grinned sheepishly. "Grabbed the first one I found. Didn't want to make you wait. Anything works, as long as it burns." Wang Dong sliced smaller twigs and branches off the log with his dagger, carrying them to the dug pit. He gathered handfuls of dry leaves and kindling, lit the wood, and fed more branches into the growing flame. He set their metal pot over the fire and poured half a bottle of mineral water inside. Water was far too precious to waste. Once the water boiled, he tossed in their last 3 packs of instant noodles and 2 sausages, then waited for the meal to cook. The rich aroma of simmering noodles drifted through the air, triggering a chorus of loud swallowing noises from the surrounding survivors. Instant noodles had been ubiquitous before the apocalypse, something most people avoided unless they craved a change of pace. Now, the scent alone was enough to make everyone salivate. Several survivors edged closer, hoping to beg a bite, but the sight of the scrawny young man and towering giant squatting by the pot, especially Qiangzi's intimidating frame, stopped them cold. Deep down, most knew no one would share their hard-earned rations in this cruel world. Still, a few couldn't help testing their luck, hoping to stumble across someone foolishly soft-hearted. "Young man, could you spare a little mercy? Just 1 bite of noodles for my grandson." A hoarse, elderly voice cut through the hum of the crowd. Wang Dong glanced up to see a ragged woman in her 50s or 60s, a chubby 7 or 8-year-old boy clinging to her side. The child's eyes were glued unblinkingly to the steaming pot of noodles. Wang Dong recognized the boy. He'd once been far rounder, now thinned by starvation. "Ma'am, didn't you and your grandson eat earlier?" Wang Dong frowned. "Why won't you touch your own supplies?" Embarrassment flickered across the old woman's face. She'd shared a loaf of bread with her grandson only moments ago, even letting him have an extra sausage, saving the rest for later survival. Yet Wang Dong had seen the whole thing. She quickly smoothed her expression into a placid smile. "Children grow fast. They burn through energy so quickly, they're always hungry. You've got 3 whole packs of noodles cooking. Could you spare one for my grandson?" She waited expectantly, as if her request was entirely reasonable. Wang Dong was stunned by her shameless moral manipulation. Even the end of the world hadn't erased people's sense of entitlement. He stared silently at the woman without uttering a word, her skin crawling under his unwavering gaze. "Why are you staring at me like that?" She shifted her gaze to Qiangzi, unnerved by Wang Dong's silence, and tried to appeal to him instead. "Big young man, you're so tall and strong. Missing 1 meal won't hurt you. Won't you share a little with my grandson?" Wang Dong almost laughed. If this woman managed to get any food out of Qiangzi, he'd eat the entire pot himself. Qiangzi had grown up chronically underfed, leaving him fiercely protective of every scrap of food they owned. Qiangzi turned to face the old woman, his eyes wide as copper bells, his vacant expression making him look even more simple-minded. The woman's heart leaped. She thought she'd won. Once the dim-witted giant agreed, she'd march straight over and fish noodles out of the pot. With so many onlookers, the boys would lose face and refuse to back down. No. A thunderous roar shook the air, ringing in everyone's ears. The old woman froze in shock, and her grandson burst into terrified wails. She recovered a heartbeat later, indignant. "You oaf! Why yell so loud? If you traumatize my grandson, I'll hold you accountable." She spun to comfort the crying boy. "Grandbaby, are you all right?" After patting him down and confirming he was unhurt, she rounded back on Xiangzi, furious. "Scaring my child like that, you owe us compensation. Hand this entire pot of noodles over to my grandson, plus 5 more packs of instant noodles, and Grandma, I want the tiny turtle," the little boy whimpered. "That's right, the turtle too. 5 sausages, 5 compressed biscuits, 2 bottles of mineral water as well. If you refuse to pay up, I'll report you to Captain Lee." The onlookers stared in stunned silence, all eyes locked on the greedy old woman. Had she lost her mind? Even in the wasteland, her audacity was staggering. Those supplies would sustain a full-grown adult for an entire week, yet she demanded them without a second thought, unafraid the giant might lash out. Everyone watched her as if she were an idiot, waiting to see if Xiangzi would strike. Wang Dong regarded her with the same pitying confusion. Did she truly believe the tactics of throwing tantrums still worked in a world without laws? But he spotted a flicker of smug triumph in the corner of her eye, and he knew she was putting on an act. She understood exactly what she was doing, hoping to extort whatever she could, with nothing to lose if she failed. The convoy rules banned assault and theft, after all. "Dongzi." Xiangzi turned to Wang Dong, his eyes swimming with confused question marks. Ever since their orphanage caretaker passed away, Xiangzi obeyed Wang Dong above all else. Even the sequence awakeners held no authority over him. He waited for Wang Dong's command to handle the situation. "It's fine, I'll deal with her," Wang Dong reassured him. He strode straight up to the old woman and raised his hand, landing a sharp slap across her cheek. Crack! The woman never expected him to strike first, caught completely off guard. How dare you hit an elder? I'll fight you." She lunged at Wang Dong with clawed hands, freezing mid-motion when Wang Dong pressed his dagger flat against her throat. Her eyes bulged with terror, rigid with fear, stammering brokenly. "Why you wouldn't kill us? They'll kick you out of the convoy." Wang Dong leaned in, his voice cold and low. "Think about what will happen when we cross paths with you again on scavenging runs, old woman. And what if your grandson goes missing in the middle of the night?" The woman shuddered violently. "Why you get lost?" Her legs buckled with fright, and she collapsed backward onto the dirt. Wang Dong retracted his dagger and slid it back into the sheath strapped to his thigh, staring at her without a word. Panic flooded her features. She scrambled clumsily to her feet, grabbed her still sobbing grandson, and fled in a frantic hurry. Wang Dong swept his gaze over the surrounding survivors. Every person who met his eyes flinched, ducking their heads and scattering quickly to avoid his attention. He turned back and gestured for Xiangzi to join him for their meal. After they finished eating, Xiangzi cleaned their dishes. No water to wash them, so he simply wiped grease off with paper napkins. Wang Dong was full, but Xiangzi still ate 2 compressed biscuits and remained hungry. Ever since they lost their van, Xiangzi only ate half his fill no matter how much food they had, ignoring Wang Dong's repeated pleas to eat properly. Wang Dong knew Xiangzi feared eating through all their supplies and leaving him to starve. The caretaker's final words had been to make sure Wang Dong, frail and sickly, always ate enough. For that reason, whenever scavenging opportunities arose that weren't deadly dangerous, the brothers always went together. Wang Dong sat on the ground, staring toward the shaded canopy beside the lead off-road vehicle, where Captain Li Qi lounged and brewed tea in the sweltering midday heat. Envy twisted in his chest. Li Qi was a sequence awakener, blessed with supernatural power. Since fleeing the Shanghai base, he'd witnessed the Awakeners' incredible strength firsthand as they fought off abominations along their journey. He wondered if he would ever unlock a sequence of his own. Sequence awakening came in countless forms. Some people awaken naturally through mundane daily acts, eating, sleeping, walking. Others forced an awakening by consuming sequence potions, though the process carried a lethal risk. Failed awakenings resulted in instant death and mutation. Most of the awakened they'd met had gained their powers via potions crafted by sequence alchemists. Wang Dong had heard rumors of these awakening serums back at the Shanghai base, but as an orphan, they'd always felt worlds away from his reach. A blaring announcement cut through the quiet, the voice of Li Xing, the convoy's head steward, echoing over a megaphone. "Pack up your belongings. We depart shortly. The refugees scrambled to gather their supplies, moving with practiced, orderly haste. There was little to tidy. They'd all packed their bags long ago, watching the awakeners prepare at the front of the line. Wang Dong felt far less fatigued after his rest. He stood, called Xiangzi over, slung his backpack on, and followed the moving convoy. They reached the edge of a small town. A roadside sign reading "Welcome to Huasher Town" faded in the dust. Before them stretched a settlement filled mostly with 3- and 4-story self-built homes, ramshackle metal shanties scattered along its perimeter. The entire town looked gray, lifeless, suffocating in desolation. Convoy Captain Li Qi addressed the group. This town holds no major threats. Anyone who wishes to scavenge supplies may prepare now. Those who don't will wait here with the vehicles. It is 12 noon now. We depart promptly at 2 p.m. sharp, no waiting for stragglers. He then gave quiet instructions to 2 awakeners standing beside him. The rest of the survivors waited for the 2 power wielders to move first. Ordinary humans never ventured into abandoned towns alone unless starvation left them with no choice. Even with the captain's reassurance that the area was safe, the wasteland held endless unforeseen horrors. Su Qingshan stood roughly 1.8 meters tall, in his mid-30s, with a buzz cut and a muscular frame clad in a black tank top and loose gray sweatpants. Beside him stood a girl around 1.65 meters tall, clutching a recurved bow. Her name was Long Zai Zai, an awakener of the bow sequence. She wore a baseball cap with her ponytail sticking out, a gray sun protective jacket, and light blue jeans that accentuated her long, lithe legs and curved hips. She had a small, oval face, large almond eyes, a slightly upturned nose, and a tiny cherry mouth, strikingly cute, yet her face was blank, her gaze frigid and unemotional. The 2 slung their backpacks and walked forward into the town, and the rest of the survivors hurried to trail behind them. Wang Dong gripped his crossbow and followed alongside Xiangzi. The town lay deathly silent, blanketed in thick dust, as if they'd stepped into a soundless void. Footprints marked the dirt as the crowd tramped onward. Abandoned rusted vehicles lined the roadside every few meters. Everyone moved with cautious, jerky steps, terrified an anomaly might leap out from any shadow. Most survivors, Wang Dong included, headed straight for the town supermarket. Its entrance was a chaotic mess, shelves overturned and litter scattered across the filthy floor. The 2 sequence awakeners glanced around the empty store once and turned to leave, but the rest of the group lingered, unwilling to abandon hope of finding overlooked supplies. Dongzi, shouldn't we leave too? Xiangzi frowned at the stripped shelves. Wang Dong shook his head. Let's check the back aisles. He walked toward the shelves stocked with daily necessities, and Xiangzi scratched his head before arriving after him. The household goods section was still messy, yet far less ransacked than the food aisles. After a short search, Wang Dong found several toothbrushes, a sealed packet of shampoo, and a few dusty rolls of toilet paper. This was only a tiny neighborhood supermarket, thoroughly looted long before their arrival, leaving barely any usable goods. If they still had their van, they could have hauled away useful items. He sighed quietly. Having a vehicle made all the difference in the wasteland. He then went to check the other sections. Passing a corner filled with children's toys, he spotted straw hats scattered across the floor. Wang Dong's eyes lit up. He hurried over to pick them up. 3 straw hats in total, left behind by earlier scavengers who'd rushed off in a hurry. Each brother took one, and Wang Dong plopped the third onto his own head. With the hats shielding them, the blazing sun wouldn't sting their eyes as badly. Wang Dong glanced at Xiangzi, who grinned foolishly under his straw hat. Chong, quit grinning. Let's move on to other areas. Xiangzi grinned back. Hee hee, all right. With that, he followed Wang Dong outside. The pair scavenged the streets out front. Every shop front stood wide open, yet they felt no urge to step inside. At the end of the street lay an open area cluttered with stone statues and carved stoneworks. Beside it sat a beat-up pickup truck with its hood missing. Its engine was coated in rust and thick dust. This truck was clearly used to haul stone. If there was a vehicle here, the sheet metal shanties might have more trucks. He gestured for Xiangzi to follow him to check them out. Xiangzi trailed Wang Dong further from the main street, noticing they'd lost sight of other survivors. Confused, he asked, Dongzi, what are we going for? Dangerous. We're looking for trucks. We haven't run into anomalies. It should be safe enough. No sooner had the words left his mouth than they rounded a bend and saw a row of sheet metal workshops with piles of raw stone outside. Every workshop's front door hung ajar, revealing stone cutting and carving tools inside. Wang Dong peeked through the doorway of the first shop. No truck. He checked several more, but none held a vehicle. All that remained inside were piles of stone and abandoned tools, likely hauled away by the previous convoy. Just as Wang Dong thought their search would yield nothing, he spotted a workshop with its door tightly shut. He saw a heavy padlock on the iron gate. Wang Dong realized he had no key for the lock. He remembered the fire axe in Xiangzi's hands and pointed at the lock, calling to his brother. Chang, over here, chop this lock off with the axe. Xiangzi stepped forward to examine the padlock. Dongzi, stand back a little. I don't want to hit you by accident. Once Wang Dong had stepped several paces away, Xiangzi raised the axe high and brought it crashing down. Clang, crash, thud. The sharp ring of metal striking metal echoed, followed by the lock clattering to the ground. Dongzi, the door's open. Wang Dong turned at Xiangzi's shout, staring at the broken lock and bolt on the dirt. He glanced at Xiangzi's arms, thicker than his own thighs, and swallowed hard, overcome with envy. He gave Xiangzi a thumbs up. Hell yeah. Xiangzi scratched the back of his neck with a silly grin. Dongzi, once your health gets better, you'll be this strong too. He pushed the gate open and stepped inside. Wang Dong shook his head and smiled to himself as he followed. Very few ordinary people possess strength like Xiangzi's. His only hope was that he might awaken a sequence someday to heal his frail body. Otherwise, with his weak constitution, he wouldn't last long in this apocalyptic wasteland. No use dwelling on it. Worrying wouldn't change a thing. He strode through the gate, and the temperature dropped several degrees in an instant. Shit, I hope there's nothing dangerous in here. Chang, stay alert. At Wang Dong's warning, Xiangzi gripped his axe tightly, his face tight with wariness as he scanned every corner of the workshop entrance. Wang Dong surveyed the dim workshop, nearly 300 square meters in size. Stone carvings, raw rock, and processing tools dotted the space sparsely. The entire room was visible at a single glance. He breathed a quiet sigh of relief. Then something covered with black plastic sheeting in the right corner caught his eye, and his heart leaped with excitement. He rushed forward and tore the plastic away to reveal a black pickup truck sitting underneath. He circled the vehicle once. It was an 80 to 90% new commercial pickup, barely damaged anywhere. But when he tugged the door handle, it was locked tight. Damn it. Wang Dong let out a long sigh. Without the keys, they couldn't drive it away. He stared at the truck unwillingly. He scanned the back of the workshop where a desk sat against the wall, meant for office work. He turned to Xiangzi. Let's head deeper and look for the truck keys. The two gripped their weapons and crept cautiously toward the back of the building. They reached the desk, its surface blanketed in dust, only a single water cup resting on top. Wang Dong pulled open the first drawer, finding nothing but documents, paper bills, and writing utensils. Disappointment flickered across his face. He tugged at the next drawer. It wouldn't budge, it was clearly locked. An idea popped into his head. He pulled his dagger free, slipped the blade into the crack, and pried hard. Crack! The drawer popped open. Resting right inside was a set of truck keys. A wild grin burst across Wang Dong's face. They really were here. Joy surged through his whole body. Crack! Huh? What was that noise? Wang Dong spun around. A strange stone statue had appeared a few meters away without them noticing. Its gray-blue stone head was crisscrossed with cracks, its demonic face lined with fangs. Its body was carved from ordinary granite. The second his eyes landed on the statue, Wang Dong's pupils shrank to pinpricks, his face draining of all color. Only one thought screamed in his mind. Run. Chang, move. Bang. Before Wang Dong could finish his warning, a powerful blow sent him flying backward. Xiangzi heard the crash and twisted around to see the anomalous stone statue. He reached out to yank Wang Dong and flee, but his brother was already flying past him. He watched Wang Dong crash to the ground, motionless, a stone spike protruding straight through his bulletproof vest. Panic flooded Xiangzi's face. He sprinted forward to lift Wang Dong and carry him outside, but the moment his hands touched Wang Dong's body, a flash of white light sent his hands flying away. Xiangzi stared in shock. He tried several more times, yet the pale light repelled him. Dongzi? Dongzi, wake up! He paced back and forth frantically beside his brother, his features twisted with terror and confusion. He glanced back at the stone anomaly, which trundled closer, chunks of stone crumbling off its frame with every step. He had no idea what strange power shielded Wang Dong. He knew he couldn't let the statue reach his brother. Gripping his axe tight, his eyes blazing red with panic and rage, he charged straight at the statue. Xiangzi reached the stone figure, raised the axe with both hands, and roared as he swung at its cracked stone head. Dang! The axe bounced off the hard stone. The recoil, sending Xiangzi staggering 2 or 3 steps backward. Both his arms throbbed, numb from the shock. A faint white mark marred the statue's head where the axe had struck, and several small stone fragments crumbled to the floor. He noticed the statue's body was clearly assembled from two separate carved stone pieces. A new plan formed in his mind. He raised the axe once more and charged, hacking at the joint where the two stone halves met. Dang! This time the axe sank into the stone instead of bouncing off. Stones showered down from the wound, yet the broken rock slowly knit itself back together. Xiangzi hurried forward to strike again, but the statue's stone arm lashed out at him. He twisted his body sharply to dodge the grasping palm. When its second arm swung toward him, he had no time to evade. He held his axe up as a shield. Clang! The statue's palm slammed the axe flat against the ground. The sheer force sent Xiangzi stumbling backward repeatedly. The statue lumbered forward with heavy steps, arms outstretched to pounce on him. Xiangzi could only dart left and right to avoid its blows. He lured the anomaly away from unconscious Wang Dong. Growing frustrated at its failed attempts to catch him, the statue split its stone jaws and let loose a deafening roar. Roar! The unexpected shriek left Xiangzi's head spinning, his eardrums ringing nonstop. He shook his head hard to clear his senses. He refocused on the statue. The stone figure opened its mouth once more and spat a sharp stone spike straight at him. Xiangzi threw his body to the side on pure instinct. Whoosh! A dark blur sliced through the air. The stone spike pierced clean through his right flank, tearing his vest. It ripped through his backpack and pinned itself deep into the wall behind him, stained bright red with his blood. A low groan of agony escaped Xiangzi, cold sweat pouring down his face as he clutched his wound. He could feel a hard stony texture where the spike had pierced him. The fabric of his vest and backpack around the wound had turned to stone. He quickly shrugged off his backpack, waves of numb, crippling pain spreading through his body. He knew the flesh around the wound was petrifying too. The thought of fleeing alone never crossed his mind. Dongzi lay helpless on the ground, and he remembered the caretaker's final words before passing away. He would hold this stone anomaly off no matter the cost, even if it cost his life, until Dongzi woke. Dragging his injured body, he continued to circle and distract the statue. While Xiangzi fought to draw the anomaly away, Wang Dong lay unconscious on the dirt floor. If anyone had been watching, they would have seen Wang Dong briefly revert to his teenage form, flickering wrapped in faint white light before slowly shifting back to his adult body. Beneath his closed lids, Wang Dong's eyes shifted, a faint smile tugging at his lips as if he dreamed something wonderful. Moments later, he snapped his eyes open and mumbled to himself. Was that a dream or real? He tried to push himself upright, pain shooting through his chest. He reached down, grabbed the stone spike embedded there, and pulled it free. Item, stone spike. Its petrification power has been fully exhausted. It was real, not a dream. Thud. A heavy crash echoed through the workshop. The stone anomaly, Chong. He scrambled to his feet and spotted Xiangzi crumpled on the ground a short distance away, blood frothing at his mouth. His bulletproof vest caved inward over his chest. Panic surged through him, and he shouted wildly. Chong! Crack! The stone statue twisted its stone head to fix its gaze. It focused on the newly awake Wang Dong. Thud! Thud! It trundled toward him with ponderous, heavy steps. Shock flashed across Wang Dong's face, quickly replaced by blazing rage. This statue was the reason his brother lay dying before him. He snatched his crossbow off the ground beside him. Item, M15 crossbow. Fires 10 bolts in quick succession, moderate attack power. He loaded and cocked the weapon, took aim, and squeezed the trigger. Whoosh! The bolt streaked toward the statue's stone head. Clink! It bounced off without leaving so much as a scratch. Wang Dong suddenly remembered ordinary weapons held no power against anomalies. Origin Orb reinforced this bolt. Insufficient origin points and origin chi. Reinforcement unavailable. Despair washed over Wang Dong. What could he do? Was he truly going to die here? A thought suddenly struck him, and he called out quickly. Origin Orb. Infuse a wisp of spatial power into the crossbow bolt. Spatial power successfully infused. Wang Dong's eyes lit up. He raised the crossbow and fired at the statue once more. Whoosh! The bolt slipped straight through one of the cracks and buried itself deep inside the eye socket. You have damaged the anomalous stone statue. Gained 200 origin chi. Roar! The statue let out a pained shriek and charged at Wang Dong with faster, heavier strides. Wang Dong fired bolt after bolt, each shot striking its stone skull and showering the ground with broken rock shards. You have damaged the anomalous stone statue. Gained 100 origin chi. You have damaged the anomalous stone statue. Gained 100 origin chi. The statue loomed inches from his face. Wang Dong lined up his shot at its gaping stone maw. He pulled the trigger. The bolt flew true, burying itself deep inside the statue's open mouth. A pale cyan light burst from the stone figure's head. It let out one final scream and collapsed at Wang Dong's feet, shattering into a pile of broken stone. Anomalous stone statue slain. Reward: 1 origin point, 200 origin chi. Wang Dong gasped for breath as he stared at the shattered remains of the statue. He rushed over to Qiangzi's side in a blind panic to check his wounds. Qiangzi's face was covered in blood, his features twisted in agony. Wang Dong gently peeled the shattered vest off his brother. His chest caved inward, his right flank split open, and oozing blood where the petrified wound spread. Tears streamed uncontrollably down Wang Dong's cheeks. Chang, wake up. As he called his brother's name over and over, Wang Dong pulled his backpack off, unzipped it, and grabbed a medicine bottle. Origin orb, reinforce this Yunnan Baiyao powder. Detected reinforceable item. Cost, 500 origin chi. Confirm reinforcement? Confirm. A wash of brilliant white light wrapped around the bottle in his hand. After several seconds, the light faded away. Wang Dong stared at the bottle, confused. It looked unchanged. Then glowing text materialized floating in front of the container. Item name: Vitality Elixir Vitality Powder Effect, Rapid Tissue Repair. Vitality Pill Effect, Stabilize Life Force, Fast Vitality Recovery. Can be used both externally and orally. After reading the description, he lifted Qiangzi's head gently. He tipped the only vitality pill and half the bottle of powder into his brother's mouth, then poured a little mineral water to wash it down. He emptied the remaining powder all over Qiangzi's petrified wound. He watched as the pained crease smoothed out after swallowing the medicine. The caved, petrified flesh on his body slowly knitted itself back together. Wang Dong sank heavily onto the dirt ground and let out a long, shaky breath. Chang was going to be all right. He reached inside his shirt. The pearl the caretaker had left him before his death was gone. He could feel the gray pearl resting safely within his sea of consciousness, and a wave of days washed over him. According to the information the pearl had shared with him, it was a fragment of a supreme treasure from another world. It had drifted through time and space. It landed in this realm, a world devoid of supernatural power, and fallen into a deep slumber. It had only awakened when Wang Dong was pierced by the stone spike earlier, absorbing the spike's petrification power and merging with his blood to bind itself to him as its master. The pearl had even used the temporal power it carried from its interworld journey to heal his chest wound. Origin orb, I'll rename you System from now on. System, what other functions do you possess? System, open my status panel. The words had barely left his mouth when a translucent floating panel materialized before Wang Dong's eyes. Name: Wang Dong's Supernatural Sequence. None-bound treasure. Origin: orb temporal origin. 1 locked, unusable energy reserves. Time: 0/space. 99.6 reinforcement fusion. Use anomalous materials to reinforce items. Scan: view detailed information on any item origin points. 1 origin chi. 100 system. What's special about origin points? The origin orb fell silent again, as if frozen. Wang Dong knew he'd gotten no answer once more. He walked over to the pile of shattered stone. His crossbow bolts had crumbled to dust alongside the broken rock. It seemed ordinary metal could not withstand prolonged exposure to spatial power. He picked up several anomalous fragments left behind and scanned them. Item name: Unknown top-tier treasure fragment. Usable for item reinforcement and fusion. Item name: Soul Crystal, random drop from slain anomalies. Usable for item reinforcement and fusion. Item name: Stone Fong, low-tier anomaly drop. Usable for item reinforcement and fusion. Wang Dong stared at the unidentified stone fragment marked. Did this stone fragment come from somewhere the statue picked up? System: are there other uses for spatial power? System: expend 1 point of spatial power to unlock storage space. Confirm spending 1 spatial power to unlock a 0.1 cubic meter storage space. Wang Dong's eyes lit up. He thought for a moment and muttered again. System: expend 10 points of spatial power to unlock storage space. Confirm spending 10 spatial power to unlock a 1 cubic meter storage space. Confirm. The moment he agreed, Wang Dong felt a mental link open to a circular pocket dimension. With a single thought, the anomalous fragments in his hands vanished, and he could sense them floating inside the separate space. He focused again, and the items reappeared in his grasp, then vanished once more on command. He clenched his fist tightly, a surge of immense strength flooding his arms. His body felt light, robust, brimming with endless stamina and sharp mental clarity, warm energy spreading through every inch of his frame. A wide, unstoppable grin stretched across his face. He laughed out loud, hearty and unrestrained. No one could possibly understand the joy surging through him. He'd always been scrawny and frail his entire life, tiring after the slightest exertion. Now he finally owned a strong, healthy body. In this apocalyptic world overrun by anomalies, his chances of survival had grown exponentially. A soft groan pulled him from his thoughts. He turned to see Xiangzi stirring awake. Wang Dong hurried over and helped his brother sit upright. Only then did he notice all of Xiangzi's hair had fallen out, leaving his scalp smooth and shiny. Could the vitality elixir have this side effect? He asked anxiously. Chang, does anything hurt? Xiangzi's mind was still foggy upon waking as someone lifted him into a sitting position. He heard a familiar voice calling to him and twisted his head to look, staring at a face that felt both familiar and utterly strange. He froze in shock. He asked tentatively, Are you Dongzi? Amused by his brother's uncertainty, Wang Dong smiled. It's me, Dongzi. Xiangzi heard the familiar tone of his voice and relaxed slightly, questioning again to confirm. Dongzi, is that really you? Wang Dong nodded firmly. It's me, the real Dongzi. When we were kids, you were so hungry you roasted toads to eat. Xiangzi's face burned with embarrassment and cut him off quickly. All right, I believe you're Dongzi. You believe me now? Xiangzi scratched his bald head awkwardly. You just look so different and better. Wait, where's all my hair? Xiangzi rubbed his head hard, realizing every strand was gone, and scrambled to his feet, ready to hunt for his lost hair. Wang Dong finally took a proper look at Xiangzi's frame. His body had bulked up significantly, and he'd even grown several centimeters taller. He watched his brother patting his bare scalp in confusion and spoke up. Chang, focus for a second. Can you feel a surge of new strength inside you? Xiangzi paused mid-step and focused on sensing the changes in his own body. A look of pure shock spread across his face. Dongzi, I think I've awakened my sequence. Really? Chang, you actually unlocked a sequence power? Xiangzi quietly sensed the new power surging inside his body once more before speaking. Yeah, it's true. I've really awakened. Great, that's wonderful news. Quick, tell me what sequence you unlocked. Wang Dong pressed him eagerly. Xiangzi stammered. Take it easy, speak slowly. Xiangzi drew a deep breath and exhaled slowly, calming his racing heart. Dongzi, I've unlocked the diamond sequence. Right now I only have one ability, petrification. The diamond sequence? What kind of petrification ability? Step back a little, Dongzi. I'll show you. At Xiangzi's words, Wang Dong immediately took several paces backward. The next second, Xiangzi let out a loud roar where he stood. A tearing sound of fabric split the air. Xiangzi had transformed into a colossal 3-meter stone giant. He stared down at the interwoven rock layers covering his body and jumped upward once. Boom. A deafening crash sent rock fragments flying, choking dust billowing everywhere. Wang Dong felt the ground shake beneath his feet, grit and gravel blasting toward his face. He quickly raised an arm to shield his eyes and squinted to look, utterly stunned. He'd only jumped a short distance and landed normally, yet the concrete pavement underfoot had split wide open. This was the supernatural power capable of fighting the eerie ones, the stark divide between ordinary humans and awakened beings. Watching Xiangzi hop about excitedly, gesturing wildly like a child giddy over his new power, Wang Dong felt genuine joy for his brother. Though a flicker of envy stirred in his chest, he held no resentment whatsoever. They were blood brothers who'd grown up side by side, ready to lay down their lives for each other. All right, Xiangzi, enough fooling around. It's getting late. We need to head back. Hearing Wang Dong's voice, Xiangzi halted, grinned sheepishly, and scratched his smooth stone head. Got it. He then retracted his supernatural power. Only then did he notice his clothes had been completely shredded. He scrambled to cover his vital regions, face burning with embarrassment. Dongzi, do you have any spare clothes I can wear? Wang Dong stared at him, lost for words. Wait here, I'll find you something. Spotting a tattered set of dark blue work overalls hanging on a nearby wall, Wang Dong stepped forward and took them down. Item name, work overalls, worn dark blue labor uniform. Damn it, I just remembered. This system only displays item information when you hold the object in your hands. Everything clicked for Wang Dong in an instant. He handed the overalls to Xiangzi, who pulled them on in a rush. Wang Dong glanced at the crossbow in his grip. Why wasn't any information popping up this time? Scan. Item name, M15 repeating crossbow, fires 10 bolts in sequence, moderate firepower. Seeing the prompt reappear, he realized the system info faded after a single display. System, Use origin points to strengthen and fuse this weapon. Origin points cannot be used for independent strengthening or fusion. Why can't I strengthen and fuse items alone? Useless question, as expected. Wang Dong glanced at Xiangzi. The ill-fitting overalls stretched tight over his frame, ready to split at any moment, and sighed helplessly. Make do with these for now, Xiangzi. We'll find better clothes later outside. Xiangzi nodded. Okay, Dongzi. With that, the two set about gathering their belongings. Wang Dong stared at his backpack. The medicine boxes and small bread rolls inside were crushed flat, and his metal lunchbox bent out of shape. Item scan prompts flickered across his vision every few seconds. He tried toggling the scan display off, and the text vanished instantly, a handy feature. He pulled out the deformed lunchbox and squeezed it firmly with both hands, forcing it roughly back into its original shape. He retrieved the lively little turtle from the bag and tucked it safely back inside. He slung the backpack over his shoulders, grabbed the crossbow and truck keys, then glanced at Xiangzi's backpack, torn open with a massive hole. The pair walked together toward the pickup truck. Dongzi, did you awaken a sequence too? Xiangzi asked in confusion. Nah, I haven't awakened anything. Then how come you look taller, buffer, and far better looking? I went through something else. If I'd unlocked a sequence, I'd have told you straight away, Xiangzi. Oh, I see. They reached the front of the truck. Wang Dong pressed the key fob, and a soft beep echoed. Hell yeah. Xiangzi, let's round up any useful supplies and load them all into the pickup. The two spent the next few minutes scavenging usable materials from the workshop. Once finished, they climbed into the truck together. Wang Dong eyed the fuel gauge, still sitting at half a tank. Scan. Strengthen and fuse vehicle. Item name. Great Wall General Pickup Truck. Functional. Good condition. Strengthen fusion cost. 1 origin point. 2,000 source chi. Insufficient source chi. Operation failed. Dongzi. This truck's way too small, Xiangzi muttered. Wang Dong turned to see Xiangzi hunched awkwardly in the passenger seat, head bowed. He'd barely fit sitting upright before his awakening, but now the cabin felt suffocatingly cramped. Standing nearly 2 meters and 10 centimeters tall, Xiangzi was a veritable giant. Squeezing him into such a tiny vehicle must be agony. Lie back instead, Xiangzi, Wang Dong said, sliding the passenger seat all the way backward to let him stretch out. Much better now, Dongzi. Hold tight, we're heading out. Wang Dong started the pickup and steered toward the gate, planning to meet the rest of their convoy outside town. Virum, Virum. The truck rolled slowly out through the gate. Just then, a flash of light caught Wang Dong's peripheral vision. He lifted his gaze to the 4th-floor window of a residential building across the road. Shiny sequined curtain pull tabs dangled from fluttering fabric, glinting brightly in the sunlight. Wang Dong rubbed his eyes in confusion, furrowing his brows and staring again. The curtain was definitely swaying. A soft breeze suddenly surged through, rustling nearby plants and sending leaves whispering against one another. It's just wind. Wait, that can't be right. There wasn't a single breath of wind when we drove into town earlier. The whole town had been deathly silent before, yet now it felt as if the place had woken from a long slumber. Wang Dong dared not dwell on it any longer. The more he thought, the stranger this town felt. He hit the gas, speeding away as fast as he could. Only once they'd left the town limits did he exhale in relief. Bright sunlight blazed overhead. Everyone knew the eerie ones feared daylight. Once, he'd found the scorching sun cruel, as if it sought to snuff out the last spark of life left to surviving humans. Now, the glowing sky felt like the survivor's sole refuge, warm and comforting to behold. At the survivor settlement, everyone watched the unfamiliar pickup truck approaching with sharp, wary eyes as the two men climbed out. They whispered among themselves, marveling at how drastically the pair had changed. 3 relatively clean women stood beside a civilian sedan. The thinner, delicate girl with softer features turned to the elder woman beside her. Sis, aren't those two the big oaf and the sickly weakling from before? Xiaodo, don't speak ill of others. Ma Xiaodo insisted. I'm telling the truth. That giant guy's bald. He's just wearing a straw hat to cover it, and he's grown a whole lot taller. And the handsome man next to him looks exactly like that scrawny sick boy we knew once. Sister man, I really think it's them Mercedes. A plain-faced woman named Wu Shui chimed in. Ma man frowned, following their line of sight. A towering brute over 2 meters tall stood munching food, straw hat perched on his head, grinning foolishly as he ate. Beside him stood a man around 180 centimeters tall, sharp-browed, sunny and rugged, with faintly familiar features. Ma man turned to her sister and Wu Shui. Xiaodo, Shui, do you think they've awakened supernatural sequences? Ma Xiaodo let out a startled yelp. cut short when Wu Shui clamped a hand over her mouth. Wu Shui lowered her voice sharply. Keep your voice down, Xiaodo, don't shout. MMH. Ma Xiaodo nodded rapidly, and Wu Shui removed her hand. Ma Man spoke cautiously. You're probably right. Only a sequence awakening could change someone this drastically in such a short time. A sequence awakening, Wu Shui murmured longingly. Exactly, Ma Xiaodo agreed. I wish I could awaken one too, then I'd never go hungry again. Ma Man's heart ached as she listened to her sister's wistful tone, staring at Xiaodo's matted, straw-colored hair and gaunt, haggard face. Once such a pretty young girl, the cursed eerie apocalypse had worn her down to this state. She sighed heavily. Enough daydreaming, Xiaodo Shui. Let's head out to scavenge. We're nearly out of supplies. We need to find wild vegetables and berries. The other two exchanged a glance, sighing in unison. All right, let's go dig for greens. Back by the pickup, Wang Dong parked the truck and climbed out, turning to Qiangzi. You've got to eat your fill from now on, Qiangzi. We have a truck now, and you've awakened your power. Once we stockpile plenty of supplies, your full stomach will keep us both safe on scavenging runs. Qiangzi nodded, seeing the logic in his words. He pulled 2 cans of luncheon meat from his torn backpack and held one out to Wang Dong. Have some too, Dongzi. Wang Dong smiled, gesturing at the squashed bread roll in his hand. You eat it. This bread will tide me over. Fine then. Qiangzi knew once Wang Dong made up his mind, no amount of arguing would sway him. The two squatted beside the truck to eat, ignoring the strange stares and murmurs of the surrounding survivors. Wang Dong remained unfazed, focused on his meal. His strengthened body came with a far heartier appetite. Qiangzi paid no mind to the crowd at all, happily devouring his canned meat. Once they finished eating, Wang Dong said, Come on, Qiangzi, let's find the captain and the other sequence bearers. Wang Dong and Wang Chong walked toward the 3 awakened sequence users who'd been debating how to split the supplies they'd scavenged earlier. Sensing someone drawing near, all 3 looked up. A handsome, rugged young man walked forward, with a 2-meter giant trailing close behind him. Captain Li Qi spoke first. What brings you two here? The question barely left his lips before he recognized them as members of his convoy. They'd simply changed beyond recognition. The giant beside Wang Dong dwarfed even Su Qingshan, yet his familiar eyes gave his identity away. As for the sunny young man beside him, faint traces of his old features lingered on his face, letting Li Qi guess they were Wang Dong and Wang Chong. If they'd been spotted separately, no one would have recognized them. Their transformations were staggering. Could it be? He hurried to ask, Are you Wang Dong and Wang Chong? Wang Dong noted the permanent dark circles etched beneath Captain Li Qi's eyes. Yes, Captain. Xiangzi and I have both awakened our sequences. Xiangzi stood behind Wang Dong, staring at him with a confused, thoughtful gaze, scratching his head under the straw hat. He wondered silently. Dongzi just said he hadn't awakened a power. Why is he lying now? Li Qi lit up with delight. Really? That's fantastic news. I knew something massive had changed about you two brothers. You've unlocked your sequences. Brother Wang Dong, tell me, what sequences have you and your brother awakened? A cold, indifferent voice cut through the air beside them. Long Zai Zai. Captain, you're so clueless. You don't conduct important conversations standing up. Invite them to sit and talk properly at once. Then go cook a couple dishes, and grab that beer you chilled this morning. Li Qi grew increasingly flustered listening to her chatter. Hold on, stop right there. Zai Zai, can't you stay quiet for once and act like a proper young lady? And how did you even know I chilled beer this morning? Li Xing told me. I talk a lot, sure, but I'm an adorable, irreplaceable beauty. Unlike you, who hides all good treats for yourself. You never share food with me. You've no idea how to treat a lady gently. No wonder you're 30 and still single. TSK. Enough. Li Qi held up a hand. All of you take a seat. I'll cook a few dishes right away. He spun on his heel and left. Su Qingshan stood off to the side, arms folded across his chest, grinning widely. Wang Dong stared in shock at their exchange. How could such a young girl speak such cutting, unsparing words in a flat, icy tone? Her tongue was practically dipped in poison. He resolved to keep his distance from her from now on. Su Qingshan spoke up. Come sit with us, Brother Dong, Brother Chong. Pay no mind to this girl. She's always this sharp-tongued. Long Zai Zai's gaze shifted to Su Qingshan. Brother Shan, did you finish all the spicy strips and potato chips I gave you last time? If there's any left, I'll help you finish them. If not, you owe me a badge for our next supply run. All right, Zai Zai, rest a moment. I'll grab snacks straight away. He turned back to the two brothers. Wait here a minute, brothers Dong and Chong. I'll fetch something to celebrate your awakenings. With that, he hurried toward the school bus. Wang Dong blinked in bewilderment. Just how intimidated were these men by Long Zai's constant nagging? The thought of her sharp, unfiltered words buzzing in his ear sent an involuntary shiver down his spine. He shot Long Zai a wary glance. Long Zai caught his suspicious stare and spoke immediately. What's that look for? I wasn't even talking about you. I don't waste my breath on just anyone, humph. No offense, Miss Long. It's a misunderstanding. I just thought you looked lovely and couldn't help staring. Wang Dong rushed to explain. Long Zai's eyes brightened. Oh, this young man's got good taste. Wang Dong's mouth twitched at being called a young man by a teenage girl of 17 or 18. Wait right here. I'll grab treats to celebrate your awakenings. I wouldn't want you two thinking I'm stingy. She turned and walked toward her own vehicle. Wang Dong watched her retreating figure, thinking the girl wasn't inherently cruel. She just had a vicious tongue. Xiangzi, let's sit down. Before he finished speaking, he saw Xiangzi staring after Long Zai with open admiration. Strangers would mistake that awestruck gaze for simple foolishness. Xiangzi, what are you envying so much? Dongzi, that girl's incredible. Neither the captain nor brother Qingshan can outtalk her, and they always give her food whenever she asks. Wang Dong smiled at his brother's earnest envy. Be honest with me, Xiangzi. Do you envy her sharp silver tongue, or the way the captain and brother Qingshan hand her treats the second she asks? Both, Xiangzi replied with a silly grin. Here's the thing about Miss Long. It's only because the captain and brother Qingshan spoil her rotten that they indulge every food craving she voices. No one else would hand her supplies so freely. She's actually quite sensible. She only teases the captain and the others for snacks occasionally. This time, she's grabbing treats partly to celebrate us, and partly to mooch extra rations for herself. Xiangzi scratched his straw hat. You're so sharp, Dongzi. You see all sides of everything. I just overthink things a lot. Come on, Xiangzi, let's sit and wait. Meanwhile, Li Qi trudged along, his head throbbing fiercely, as if a monk chanted non-stop scriptures inside his skull. Spotting his brother busy beside the off-road truck, he strode over and wrapped an arm around Li Xing's neck, his tone dark and suspicious. Li Second, explain this to me. How did Zai find out about the beer I chilled this morning? Li Xing had been sorting supplies scavenged from the town, caught off guard when his brother grabbed him, bombarding him with a menacing question. He quickly put on an innocent expression. Brother, you told me to refill the cooler once the chilled beer ran out. Li Qi frowned. Did I tell you to stock that many bottles? I only asked you to put 1 or 2 in at most, as I recall. Exactly, brother. Ever since you awakened your sequence, you sleep longer and your memory's gone downhill fast. Is that so? Li Qi muttered, confused. Yep, that's exactly what happened. Guess I must have mixed things up. Never mind. Go prep ingredients now. I'll cook a few dishes. Brother, we just ate not long ago. Why cook again so soon? Quit your pointless questions. Is my memory really that bad? New sequence bearers just joined the convoy. I'm making food to welcome them. For real? 2 people awakened at once. Li Xing asked, curious. It's that scrawny boy and the burly guy brother Shan invited when we fled Shanghai. They just look unrecognizable after their awakenings. Oh, them. There was no way they'd agree to join us back then. They had a van full of supplies and lacked nothing. Even after they lost the van later, they fared far better than most survivors. Hurry up and prep the ingredients, Li Qi urged. On it, brother. I'll get started right away. Li Xing turned, wiping imaginary sweat from his forehead, releasing a quiet sigh of relief. He'd successfully fooled his brother. If Big Brother finds out I made him bring so much beer, I'm definitely in for a beating. Shush, Russell. The crunch of feet treading dry grass echoed over. Brother Dongzi, Brother Qiangzi, why's it just the 2 of you? Where's Zai? Su Qingshan called out before he even came into view, a plastic bag dangling from his hand. Brother Qingshan, if you don't mind, you can just call us Dongzi and Xiangzi from now on. Wang Dong hurried to reply. Miss Long went off to grab some supplies. All right, I'll stick with Dongzi and Xiangzi then. You 2 can call me Brother Shan. Haha, who would have thought it? I invited you 2 along last time, and you turned me down. Yet now you're officially part of our crew. You know what the terms were to ride in your vehicle back then, Brother Shan? Wang Dong scratched the tip of his nose, looking sheepish. Xiangzi and I still had our van at that point, so? No hard feelings. I didn't think things through properly back then. Su Qingshan thumped his chest firmly to reassure them. From now on, if you or Xiangzi need anything, come find me. I'll sort out whatever I can for you 2. Thanks, Brother Shan. We'll be troubling you later. That's the spirit. Come on over. Times are tough these days. I don't have much to treat you with. He set the tote bag down on a folding chair and unzipped it, pulling out spicy strips, potato chips, peanuts and sunflower seeds to hand to Wang Dong and Xiangzi. Wang Dong hadn't tasted snacks like this in ages. He reached out and took them with a grin. Brother Sean, anything that fills your belly is a luxury these days. Haha, you're exactly right, Dongzi. Though us sequence-awakened folks still get to have snacks every now and then. Here, Brother Xiangzi, have some too. He grabbed a big handful and dumped it into Xiangzi's arms. Xiangzi stared down at the pile of treats, then looked at Su Qingshan's easy, hearty grin and smiled back. Thank you, Brother Sean. Su Qingshan tilted his head to look at Xiangzi. The silly glint in the young man's eyes faded as he smiled, leaving his whole face looking utterly simple and honest. He patted Xiangzi's thick, broad shoulder. Don't be shy, Xiangzi. Man, you've bulked up so much lately. He squeezed Xiangzi's arm in amazement. I wish I had a frame like yours. He smiled, full of envy. Hee hee. Xiangzi just grinned dumbly without a word. What are you two snickering about? Long Zai walked over and set down the chicken feet, dried fish and other snacks she'd brought on the table. Zai, you're here. I was just saying how much taller and bigger Xiangzi's gotten since he awakened his sequence. Yeah, standing next to him you look tiny, Brother Sean. If you grew your hair long and put on some makeup, people would think you two were a married couple standing side by side. Cough, cough. I'm fine, just choked on the spicy strip. Wang Dong quickly ducked his head, stifling his laughter, his shoulders shaking nonstop. Su Qingshan shot Long Zai a dark, exasperated look. Zai, how can you talk about me like that? Where on my body do I look like a woman? He flexed his arm to show off his muscles. I saw you holding that photo all by yourself when no one's around. Long Zai. The captain's voice cut her off sharply. I let you get away with little jokes normally. Both Brother Sean and I indulge you, but you've gone too far this time. How can you joke about Brother Shan's photo? Do you not know that's a picture of his late family? Apologize to him right now. Captain, drop it, Su Qingshan interjected quickly. Zai still underage. She just spoke without thinking. It wasn't intentional. Brother Sean, don't cover for her. She runs her mouth without a filter, and one day she'll offend the wrong person and get stabbed in the back. Murder carries no punishment out here now. The captain, Li Qi, turned to Long Zai sternly. Apologize at once. Long Zai instantly regretted her words the second they left her mouth. She was just blunt and sharp-tongued, not malicious at heart. She bowed deeply to Su Qingshan. I'm so sorry, Brother Sean. I shouldn't have joked about your family. Please overlook my foolish words and forgive me. Su Qingshan stepped forward at once to help her stand. He saw the blankness on her face, a permanent side effect of her awakening, and waved the matter off. It's all right, Zai. I know you didn't mean any harm. We're lucky just to be alive in this world anyway. Don't beat yourself up over it. I forgive you. Tears pricked Long Zai's eyes when she saw he'd forgiven her and was smiling to comfort her. She suddenly threw her arms around him and mumbled, Thank you, Brother Sean. Su Qingshan froze for a second at her sudden hug, then gently rubbed her back. There, it's all okay. The others standing by watched and smiled warmly. Enough of the hugging, come eat. The group gathered under the sun umbrella. Wang Dong stared at the spread laid out on the table, shredded potatoes, sausages, cured meat, and a plate of wild greens. No wonder everyone said there was a godlike divide between sequence-awakened humans and ordinary survivors. Most regular survivors counted themselves lucky to scrape together enough food to stay alive, yet their captain had time to cook 4 whole dishes. Dig in, everyone. Dongzi, Xiangzi, try my cooking. Li Qi urged them warmly. I used to be a head chef at a hotel. Captain, you can just call us Dongzi and Xiangzi from now on. Will do. You two can call me Captain or Brother Qi, whichever you prefer. Wang Dong picked up a chopstick and tasted some shredded potatoes. Even without fancy seasonings, it tasted surprisingly good. By the way, Dongzi, Xiangzi, what sequences did you awaken? Li Qi asked. Captain, I'm a forger in Xiangzi's diamond sequence, with stone transformation abilities. The captain looked stunned. You're a forger, Dongzi? Yeah, Captain. Is there something wrong with being a forger? The captain warned him with concern. You need to be careful when crafting oddities from now on. Forgers lose portions of their lifespan if they craft oddities too frequently. Wang Dong frowned in confusion. Why does frequent crafting drain lifespan? Do you know there are 2 types of oddities, Dongzi? Wang Dong knitted his brows. He'd only ever heard of oddities before, never that they were split into 2 categories. What are they, Captain? Li Qi took a sip of beer and went on. Natural oddities and man-made oddities. Natural oddities spawn naturally from heaven and earth. Their biggest advantage is that they come with no usage cost, and you can bind them to yourself permanently. You already know the downsides of man-made ones, I'm sure. People have speculated that artificially crafted oddities lack a vital source of energy. To make up for that missing power, a forger must sacrifice their own life force to craft them. And every man-made oddity also carries a toll each time you use it. That's why I told you not to churn them out non-stop. Everything clicked into place for Wang Dong as he listened. Thank God I'm not a real forger. Wait a minute. If I use origin points to strengthen and fuse materials, will those count as natural oddities? If that's true, I've hit the jackpot. Seeing Wang Dong sink into silence, the captain thought he was worried. He hurried to comfort him. Don't stress too much. Your life force will recover slowly as long as you don't overwork your ability, and spirit elixirs can speed the healing process along. Wang Dong's eyes widened. Captain, are spirit elixirs made by Sequence Apothecaries? Li Qi nodded. That's right. Word has it they're brewed using soul crystals mixed with other ingredients. Wang Dong's heart skipped a beat. Is the crystal a black chunk? The captain looked surprised. Wait, you two have soul crystals too? Yeah, Captain, Wang Dong explained. We found them after we awakened our sequences back in that town. Li Qi looked curious. What kind of abomination did you run into? Brother Shan and Zai Zai said the town was eerily silent, not even a breath of wind. They evacuated all the survivors out fearing danger. It all clicked for Wang Dong. That's why there wasn't a single soul in town when we arrived before the scheduled evacuation. The abomination we fought was. Wang Dong recounted every detail of their encounter to Captain Li Qi. Li Qi thought for a moment before speaking. What you faced must have been a stone statue wraith. Normally their core sits in their chest. Destroy the core and they die instantly. The one you fought, a fractured skull fused with granite, must have been a mutated variant. He pulled out a notebook filled with scribbled notes. Captain, what's that? Wang Dong asked curiously. Oh, nothing much. I just jot down strange occurrences so we can trade information with other caravans we meet later. Li Qi lifted his beer mug. Come on, Dongzi, let's drink. That wraith shattered to pieces anyway. No point puzzling over it. Let's raise a glass to celebrate you and Xiangzi awakening your sequences. Wang Dong reached for his beer only to notice all 4 plates of food were completely empty. That explained why it had been quiet beside him. The other 3 had been shoveling food non-stop. One stared at his hands awkwardly, one scratched his bald head, and one sat blank-faced. Wang Dong was utterly defeated by their guilty expressions. You finished all the food. Why are you staring at me? Brother Shan, Zai Zai, you couldn't leave even a bite for Dongzi? Li Qi chided them. Next time we will, promise, Su Qingshan mumbled sheepishly, while Long Zai Zai hung her head without a word, still shaken from her earlier mistake. All right, just be more mindful next time. Dongzi, you need to eat faster from now on, or between these two plus Xiangzi's appetite, Li Qi warned him. Wang Dong held back a sigh. It's not my fault. You kept me talking this whole time. He quickly smiled and flattered the captain. It's just your cooking was too delicious, Captain. You'll get plenty more chances to eat it, no worries. Li Qi smiled. And Xiangzi, tell me any dish you want to eat later. I'll cook it for you. No need to gather the ingredients yourself. Got it. I'll find the ingredients and bring them to you to cook, Captain. Li Qi suddenly smacked his forehead. Hey, we never properly introduced everyone earlier. Let me do that now. I'm Li Qi, second sequence perception user, former hotel chef. Brother Shan is Su Qingshan, second sequence beast transformation user, used to be a construction foreman. Long Zai Zai, just call her Zai Zai, first sequence archer. She was a student before the end. Now that Dongzi and Xiangzi are with us, scavenging supplies will be far safer. Dongzi, stick close behind me on runs, Brother Shan, and I will keep you safe. Before Su Qingshan could finish speaking, a thick, steel rod-like arm shot into view, bulging flexed biceps. Right, and Brother Xiangzi too. Dongzi, you'll stay behind Xiangzi and me, we'll both cover you. Wang Dong watched Brother Shan take a sip of beer to calm himself, then felt Xiangzi's gaze land on him. He stifled a snort, then straightened his face. Got it, Brother Shan. I'll stick with you and Xiangzi from now on. Time's up, we're moving out. Li Qi told the others to alert the rest of the survivors. Wang Dong headed for his pickup truck with Xiangzi. Mr. Wang Dong, could you give my daughter and me a ride? My daughter Xinxin and I will help you clean up your truck and sort supplies. A woman in her early 30s stepped into their path, a young girl clinging to her side, speaking gently. She tucked loose strands of hair behind her ear as she spoke. Wang Dong studied the woman standing before him. She had a gentle, elegant face with a faint trace of youthful innocence. Her name was Yuan Yuan. Her husband had gone into the town to scavenge supplies last week and never returned. Multiple men in the caravan had hit on her, all turned down flat. She was clearly either looking for a protector or running low on supplies. A ride? Wang Dong frowned, his tone cold. A quick lift, a full day's ride. Or are you planning to stay with us permanently? Yuan Yuan had expected a flat refusal or a soft agreement to let them climb aboard. She hadn't anticipated a sharp question about how long she planned to tag along, and froze, unable to reply. It's not like that, Mr. Wang Dong. Please listen, save it. I'm not offering you a spot. Go ask someone else for a ride and leave me alone. Wang Dong walked past her with Xiangzi. Yuan Yuan opened her mouth to call after them, but no sound came out. She'd only approached them because they were sequence awakened. Don't underestimate ordinary survivors who've lived this long. News spreads through the entire caravan in under 3 minutes. Yuan Yuan, why not come ride with me? A middle-aged man with yellowed teeth perched on a nearby motorcycle leered at her, a cigarette dangling from his lips. Sister Yuan, don't go with him. If you need a ride, get on my bike. I'll take you and Xin. A teen covered in acne blurted nervously. Damn brat, you asking for a beating? Mind your own business. The yellow-toothed man hopped off his motorcycle, ready to throw punches. That's enough. Li Lao-san, if you lay a hand on him, I'll report you to the captain. Yuan Yuan snapped. Right as she finished speaking, the caravan speaker crackled with Li Qi's voice announcing departure. Watch your back, kid, Li Lao-san snarled, then hopped back on his motorcycle and rode off. Thank you for offering, Xiao Zhang. Yuan Yuan said softly to the young man. It's nothing, Sister Yuan. I'm happy to help you. Xiao Zhang's face burned bright red, stammering awkwardly. Give me your bags. I'll tie them to the back of the bike. No need. I'll carry them myself. Yuan Yuan declined gently. Oh, okay then. Wang Dong drove his pickup, following 2 off-road vehicles at the front of the line, Su Qingshan's converted school bus and the rest of the caravan trailing behind. He felt the rumble of the wheels beneath the seat, the steering wheel lighter to turn than before, cool air blowing from the air conditioning. A sense of calm washed over him. A smooth ride, a healthy body. These were all the foundations of survival. Static fizzled over the vehicle comms channel. 5 miles ahead lies an abandoned village. The caravan will stop there to scavenge supplies. After an hour of slow travel, Captain Li Qi's voice echoed through every vehicle's speakers. The whole convoy parked outside the village. Wang Dong and Xiangzi climbed out and walked over to the captain's group. Once everyone gathered, Li Qi spoke. This is a deserted village. I scanned it with my perception ability earlier. There are a few abominations inside, but their threat level is low. Stay cautious, and you'll be fine. Everyone must return to the convoy before 5 o'clock. Any questions? Wang Dong frowned. Captain, why didn't your perception pick up that stone statue wraith back in town? A faint, unreadable look crossed Li Qi's face. That statue wraith was likely mutated, and my perception isn't infallible. Some abominations are masters of concealment and slip past my senses, so stay extra vigilant. Su Qingshan nodded. Let's go, Dongzi. If the captain says the threat's minor, it's only low-level first or second sequence abominations. We can handle them as long as we stay careful. All 4 of them grabbed their weapons and headed into the village, aside from Su Qingshan, who went ahead alone. Unknown bird cries echoed through the empty settlement, a village built to hold over 1,000 residents. Flaking plaster, collapsed houses, and trash littered every corner. They reached a 2-story courtyard, its wooden gate hanging crookedly off its hinges. Su Qingshan stepped forward and pushed the creaking gate open. Wang Dong followed him inside, and the group split up to search separate rooms for usable supplies. Wang Dong and Xiangzi took the first floor. They found cooking seasonings, rice, noodles, and cooking oil in the kitchen, plus bedding, clothes, folding tables, and chairs. Xiangzi changed into a blue tracksuit, bundled all the supplies into a bedsheet, and slung the heavy load over his back. Dongzi, Xiangzi, get over here. Su Qingshan's voice called from the rear of the house. They hurried back to him and stared at the pile of potatoes, grain, garlic, and ginger spread across the ground. We hit the jackpot, Brother Shan. Wang Dong grinned. I'll send Xiao Lu and the others to haul all this back later. Xiao Lu's my assistant, and Zai Zai's classmate Xiao Lin is with the crew too. A sudden scream cut through the air. A rat. A huge rat. Bang, help. Somebody help. The group sprinted toward the sound, spotting panicked survivors darting around. Up ahead stood a metal sheet shed, once a small farmer's market. A giant rat over 2 meters tall loomed over a fallen survivor, its gray skin stretched tight over bulging black veins as it tore into the person's body. Several other bodies lay bleeding on the ground nearby, their limbs twitching weakly. You monster! How dare you hunt humans? The giant rat spotted their group approaching and let out a shrill screech before charging straight at them. Has this rat's cry even changed after growing huge? A thunderous roar echoed. To Wang Dong's eyes, Brother Shan had transformed into a 3-meter-tall brown shaggy bear man and charged forward. Thud! Thud, heavy pounding footsteps resounded. As the giant rat lunged at them with bared claws, Brother Sean swung his arms and sent it flying. Whoosh! An arrow streaked from Long Zai hand straight toward the giant rat. Only then did Wang Dong tell Xiangzi to rush in and help. System, infuse spatial power. Spatial power infusion complete. He immediately raised his crossbow and loosed a bolt at the giant rat. You have attacked the eerie red-eyed giant rat. Gain 200 source chi points. System, turn off all combat notifications. No more pop-ups. These source chi points were precious, and he didn't need constant message spam distracting him. If he hesitated any longer, he'd get nothing at all. Brother Sean glanced back and saw Wang Dong firing support shots from behind. Xiangzi also shifted, turning into a stone golem twice his original size. Brother Sean halted his assault and stood by, ready to back them up at any moment. He'd let Wang Dong and Xiangzi handle the giant rat alone. The two had only just become sequence bearers. This fight would let them get used to combat and build experience. Besides, this Tier 1 giant rat was not powerful at all. With him watching over them, he could step in instantly if anything went wrong. Xiangzi, fully transformed into a stone giant, charged up to the rat. He raised a hand axe he clutched and brought it crashing down onto the rat's skull. Bang, crack. The sound of the giant rat being sent crashing to the ground mixed with the snap of the broken axe blade. Xiangzi stared at the splintered axe handle in his grasp, then at the giant rat's unharmed head. He tossed the useless broken wood aside. He balled his fist into a boulder-sized stone paw and pummeled the giant rat relentlessly. The rat squealed in agony, slashing and biting at Xiangzi with its fangs and claws. Yet it only chipped off flecks of stone, unable to wound him in the slightest. While Xiangzi fought up front, Wang Dong kept firing bolts nonstop from the rear. Pinned under their combined assault, the giant rat was forced back. Wang Dong's final crossbow bolt buried itself deep in the rat's skull. Squeak! The giant rat let out a final wail and collapsed dead. Turns out the oversized rodent still made regular rat squeaks. A low snarl cut through the air, a familiar sound. One fully grown giant rat and three smaller ones burst out of the dim alley, their jaws dripping with fresh blood and shreds of flesh. Dongzi, you handle the three smaller ones. With that, Brother Sean sprinted toward the largest giant rat. Xiangzi raced after him to deal with the remaining three juvenile rats. Wang Dong and Long Zai circled the rats surrounding Xiangzi, knocking arrows and firing nonstop. Xiangzi charged straight at the three rats, clenched his stone fists, and roared. Die! One rat leading the charge was sent flying over 10 meters with a single punch. It crashed through a wall and slammed heavily onto the floor inside the ruined building. Wang Dong swallowed hard, staring at the gaping hole smashed into the wall. Brother Sean hadn't possessed strength this overwhelming back when he was only Tier 1. Donga, watch out! Long Zai shouted a sharp warning from beside him. A giant rat was barreling straight for Wang Dong. Wang Dong watched the blood-soaked rodent bare its fangs and pounce at him. Goosebumps erupted all over his skin. He stumbled backward, firing his crossbow wildly. Scrape! A dragging sound echoed. The charging rat suddenly lurched backward. Xiangzi had grabbed its tail, lifted it off the ground, and slammed it violently against the pavement over and over. The last remaining small rat suddenly leaped, aiming straight for Xiangzi's head. Xiangzi, look out! Wang Dong cried out in panic. Xiangzi barely caught sight of the dark shadow hurtling toward his face. Whoosh! A sharp arrow slammed into the rat, sending it tumbling away mid-leap. Zai, thanks a ton. Wang Dong spoke up quickly on Xiangzi's behalf. No need to thank me, Donga. We're teammates. We look out for each other. Hurry and finish off these three small rats so we can rush over to help Brother Sean. That big one's far tougher. Long Zai spoke rapidly as she loosed another arrow. Got it. Wang Dong reloaded a full bolt magazine and fired at any rats darting out of the wall hole. Brother Sean faced the giant rat that stood a full meter taller than him. His eyes flared wide, and he let out a thunderous roar. His 3-meter bear man body underwent complete ursine transformation, swelling rapidly. In an instant, he became a towering 6-meter brown bear, standing fully upright. The bear-shaped Brother Sean roared and raised his massive paw to smash down on the giant rat's head. A flash of crimson light flickered in the rat's eyes. Brother Sean froze mid-swing. The next second, the rat bared its razor fangs and lunged for his throat. Snapping out of his stupor, Brother Sean barely twisted his bare body aside. The rat sank its teeth deep into his left shoulder instead. Brother Sean roared in pain, clamping his bare jaws onto the rat's neck. He shook his head ferociously, trying to fling the rat free. Screaming from the crushing bite, the rat bit down even harder, slashing its claws wildly across Brother Shan's fur in its thrashing. The giant rat realized the bear felt no pain and refused to loosen its grip on its neck. Another red glow flashed in its eyes. Brother Shan's colossal bear body stiffened completely. Seizing its chance, the rat tore a chunk of flesh from his shoulder and wriggled free of his jaws. Before it could flee far, Brother Shan broke out of his paralysis. He charged forward and swiped his giant paw with full force. Boom! A deafening crash. The giant rat went flying horizontally through the air. Ignoring his own bleeding wounds, Brother Shan strode forward. He slammed his paws repeatedly into the rat's skull while biting down hard. "You damned beast, die!" Bear and rat descended into a brutal brawl. The ground split open beneath their fight, sending rock fragments flying everywhere. Blood and flesh splattered across the ground, creating a gruesome scene. Wang Dong spotted the giant rat limping out of the wall hole. A surge of hope filled him, and he fired bolt after bolt at the injured rodent. His final crossbow bolt buried itself in the rat's eye. After one shrill scream, the rat twitched on the ground before falling still. Squelch! Beside him, Long Zai Zai loosed a faintly glowing arrow that pierced straight through another rat's skull. That creature also went limp. Xiangzi tossed aside the rat corpse he'd smashed to a mangled pulp. The three watched the giant rat bodies dissolve into black smoke and vanish. They hurried forward to retrieve their arrows and any eerie loot, then sprinted toward Brother Shan's battle. Thud! Thud! Xiangzi's 3-meter stone form charged into the fray. Wang Dong stared at the two colossal beasts tearing and smashing into one another, blood and gore coating every surface around them. A chill ran down his spine. Brother Shan fought in an unbelievably savage way. He raised his crossbow, aimed at the giant rat, and pulled the trigger. The bolt flew at blistering speed, struck the rat's skull, splattered a spurt of blood, then ricocheted off its thick hide. Donga, its skull is far too hard. Aim for its torso instead, Long Zai Zai explained, watching his bolt bounce away. Following her advice, Wang Dong aimed and fired at the rat's body. The bolt streaked like lightning and embedded itself in the rodent's flesh. But under the relentless attacks from Xiangzi and Brother Shan, the loose bolt wobbled free and fell to the ground. Xiangzi could barely harm the rat, so he charged at it head-on despite his own bleeding wounds. Ordinary crossbow bolts could only hold a limited amount of spatial power. Too many shots would shatter them outright, Wang Dong thought anxiously. System: enhance and fuse my crossbow. Enhancement fusion available. Cost: 1 origin point, 2,000 source chi points. Confirm enhancement fusion? Wang Dong noticed the other's eyes fixed firmly on the giant rat. He remembered weapon enhancement released bright white light, so he turned sideways and stowed the crossbow in his storage space. He wanted to test if upgrades could be done inside storage. System: enhance and fuse the crossbow with stone fangs and 1 unit of spatial power. Enhancement fusion available. Cost: 1 origin point, 2,000 source chi points, 1 stone fang, 1 unit spatial power. Confirm enhancement fusion? Confirm. Wang Dong sensed white light envelop the crossbow and stone fang inside his storage space as the two items merged together. He hadn't expected enhancements to work within storage. The white glow faded after a few seconds. With a thought, he summoned the weapon to his hand. The new crossbow was heavier, half again longer than the original, forged as if cast from a single piece of metal etched with faint cyan glowing runes. Oddity name: Stonefang Crossbow ID. 1024 effects. 1. Bolts fired deal increased damage against eerie entities. Built-in spatial bolt magazine. Holds 100 bolts total. 1 bolt regenerates per hour, or can be replenished with source chi. Auto-cocks after each shot. 12/100 remaining 3. Stonefang bolts. Inflict petrification on physical eerie targets. 3 bolts automatically regenerate daily in the spatial magazine. 3 stored. Status: automatically bound to wielder. Hidden drawback: none, only visible to bound owner. He'd actually forged a heaven and earth oddity with 0 side effects, auto-cocking functionality, and self-replenishing bolts. If the slow natural regen bothered him, he could top up the magazine instantly with source chi. Wang Dong's heart hammered as he read the item stats, a wide grin spreading across his face. System: fully replenish all crossbow bolts. Bolts fully replenished. Watching his source chi count drop, Wang Dong raised the Stonefang crossbow and fired rapidly at the giant rat. Each bolt sank deep into the rat's belly, only the fletching visible above its skin. The crossbow auto-cocked in less than a second after every shot, widening Wang Dong's smile further. He fired non-stop, round after round. Screaming in agony from the embedded bolts, The giant rat ignored Brother Shan and Xiangzi, trying to pull the projectiles free. But the two men would never let it have that chance. Trapped under their unceasing assault, the rat resorted to its old trick. A red glint flickered in its eyes, targeting Xiangzi. Seeing Xiangzi freeze in place, Brother Shan rushed forward to intercept the rat's strike. Even overwhelmed by their combined attacks, the giant rat still fought ferociously. A thought struck Wang Dong. A cyan stone bolt materialized in the crossbow's slot, and he fired it straight at the rat's neck. The cyan bolt flashed past like a streak of light and buried itself in the rat's throat, spreading petrification across its flesh instantly. Brother Shan spotted the spreading stone crust on the rat's neck and smashed his bare paws repeatedly against the brittle petrified section. The Stonefang bolts dealt devastating damage to the giant rat. Wang Dong fired his two remaining Stonefang bolts at the beast as well. Long Zai occasionally loosed faintly glowing arrows to chip away at the rat's health. Wounds multiplied across the giant rat's body. Moments later, under their coordinated assault, the rat finally fell motionless. Its body collapsed to the ground and dissolved into black smoke, leaving only a handful of items as proof it had once existed. With the rat gone, Brother Shan heaved a deep sigh and reverted to human form, swaying unsteadily. Xiangzi, also human again, rushed to steady him. Wang Dong and Long Zai hurried over, voices laced with concern. Xiangzi, Brother Shan, are you two all right? We're fine, Dongzi Zai. Just minor scrapes, the two replied. Brother Shan grinned casually, as if he felt no pain at all. Xiangzi had only claw and bite marks across his body, superficial wounds trivial for sequence bearers. Brother Shan, however, bore multiple severe lacerations. Blood dripped steadily onto the ground. A huge chunk of flesh was torn from his left shoulder, bone exposed beneath the wound, alongside multiple bleeding punctures and gashes. Brother Shan, your injuries are terrible, Dongzi, don't worry. These small wounds heal fast. Donga, it's true. Brother Shan lost an entire arm once, and it regrew within a single day, Long Zai added from beside them. Wang Dong glanced back at Brother Shan's shoulder wound. The bleeding had already stopped. Fleshy granulation tissue wriggled beneath the torn skin, visibly regenerating. Truly worthy of a physique-focused sequence bearer. Insane. Dongzi, we couldn't have taken down that monster without your shots earlier. It would have been far harder. Brother Shan's gaze drifted to the transformed crossbow in Wang Dong's hand, filled with undisguised envy. Only he and Xiangzi in the team still lacked an oddity. Wang Dong silently resolved to craft one for Xiangzi when the chance arose. Noticing Brother Shan's envious look, Wang Dong smiled. Don't worry, Brother Shan. When I find suitable eerie materials later, I'll forge one for you. You're a true brother. I owe you one. If I ever come across rare eerie materials that won't harm your body, you have to craft an oddity for me. I'll pay you double the resources once it's done. Long Zai listened to their exchange, choosing not to ask Wang Dong to craft an oddity for her. The hidden costs tied to oddities were not to be taken lightly. All right, everyone. Dongzi, Xiangzi, Zai, let's head back, Brother Shan said, staring at the bodies scattered across the village ground. Damn this eerie apocalypse. Gather all the loot from these corpses. We'll return their belongings to their families. For anyone with no surviving relatives, we'll split their supplies among the group. Wang Dong nodded repeatedly, silently admiring Brother Shan's sense of morality. Returning supplies to survivors' families would keep ordinary civilians alive in the convoy. If they encountered eerie creatures too strong to defeat, more civilians meant extra targets to draw the monster's attention during retreats. The rest of the group all agreed to Brother Shan's plan. Brother Shan, your wounds are severe. Go rest first. The three of us can finish searching for leftover supplies, Wang Dong told him. Very well, I'll head back to recover. I'll leave the scavenging to you three, Brother Shan replied. He gathered all the eerie materials he had looted and left the village ahead of them. Wang Dong and the others stayed behind to rummage through the remaining buildings for supplies. Once all goods were gathered, they sent Brother Shan's assistant Xiao Lu to lead men to haul everything back to the convoy. The sky darkened fast. Wang Dong and the rest led the surviving civilians out of the village. Donga, have you seen my son? Didn't he come out with you? Yeah. Donga, have you spotted my husband? Is he? Voices of anxious questioning rippled through the convoy. If anyone's family member didn't make it out alive, come look through these bags to see if you recognize your loved one's belongings. As soon as Wang Dong finished speaking, desperate sobs erupted all around them. Over 20 people had died inside the village that day. Wang Dong's tone carried heavy melancholy. Xiao Lu, bring all the bags over here. Relatives of the deceased crowded around one another, searching for their family's personal bags. Life still had to go on, even after losing loved ones. Wushu have killed a human. Gained 1 origin point. Ah, he killed someone. Everyone's silence. Check this man's body. Did he have any family with the convoy? The crowd stared at the fallen figure, exchanging uneasy glances. That's old man Li San. He has no family at all. He must have tried to steal supplies from the dead bodies. Exactly. Men like him deserve death, preying on the corpses of the fallen. The crowd murmured among themselves, eyes fixed on Li San's lifeless form. Yuan grabbed her daughter and stepped hastily backward, away from the commotion. The Ma sisters and most other civilians fell silent, staring at Wang Dong with undisguised fear. Enough. Collect your family's supplies and disperse suicide, Wang Dong ordered the crowd. His expression cold and unchanging, he stared down at Li San's corpse. A crossbow bolt jutted from the man's forehead, eyes wide open in eternal shock, his hand still clamped tight around his stolen backpack. He couldn't pretend there was no personal grudge between them. Li San had constantly mocked Wang Dong and Xiangzi before, calling one an idiot and the other useless. He had held his temper out of respect for the convoy's rules. Now that Li San had made the first move to loot the dead, killing him was more than justified. Though Wang Dong had yet to officially awaken his sequence power, everyone else believed he already possessed awakened abilities. Dongzi, try to avoid killing ordinary civilians unless they attack you first. We need them to draw the eerie creatures away from our core team. The captain walked over to warn him. I understand, Captain. Let's go discuss how we'll split all the scavenged supplies. The group gathered around a table and sat down. Wang Dong spotted Brother Shan already present. A thin layer of fresh pink granulation tissue covered his wounds, starkly different from his normal skin. His regenerative speed was astonishing, Wang Dong thought to himself. Everyone have some tea. Captain Li Qi poured a cup for each person from his kettle before continuing. Previously, I took 40% of all supplies, and Brother Shan plus Zai Zai split the remaining 60%. Now that 2 more people have joined our core group, we'll split everything evenly, 20% each. However, I and Brother Shan get first pick of any eerie materials we collect from now on. Does anyone object to this arrangement? Hee, I've got no complaints, Brother Shan grinned. I'll follow whatever the captain decides, Long Zai Zai said calmly. I'll go with whatever Dongzi thinks. Xiangzi glanced at Wang Dong and replied. Wang Dong frowned, weighing the captain's vital leadership role and Brother Shan's Tier 2 strength. Since neither of them opposed the split, there was no reason for him, a fake sequence bearer, to argue. He nodded his agreement. Good, this supply split stands for now. We'll renegotiate if anyone's strength shifts later. We have 8 leftover eerie items total. 2 Tier 2 drops, an eyeball and a fong, plus a soul crystal, for Tier 1 fangs, and 1 rat pelt. I'll take the soul crystal first. The rest of you pick your shares. Then I'll claim the eyeball. Brother Shan smiled. Donga, you choose next. You contributed the most to defeating the giant rat. Long Zai Zai gestured for Wang Dong to step forward. Thanks, Zai Zai, I won't hold back. With that, Wang Dong picked up the Tier 2 fong from the table. Long Zai Zai then selected 1 Tier 1 fong and the rat pelt for herself. The remaining 3 Tier 1 fangs went to Xiangzi. Zai Zai, would you trade that rat pelt for 2 of my fangs? Wang Dong asked, slightly sheepish. Long Zai Zai stared blankly at Wang Dong for a long moment. Only then did she speak calmly. Fine. After all, I'm the one who's getting the better end of this deal. Wang Dong immediately took 2 rat fangs from Xiangzi and traded them to Long Zai Zai for the rat pelt. Thanks, Zai Zai. It's nothing, Brother Dong. Next time you find any tasty food, don't hide it, share it with me. Wang Dong looked at Long Zai Zai's cute face as she spoke to him with that blank expression. He thought to himself, this little girl would be even cuter if she smiled. Since we've split everything up, let's hit the road. The captain yawned and announced. Shortly after, the convoy packed up their belongings and set off. Beneath the blistering sun, the group veered east, then west, and even doubled back along their original path every few minutes. The captain sensed lurking danger and adjusted their route accordingly. This erratic driving pattern was the only reason the entire convoy had survived this long. They kept traveling straight until the wee hours of the morning before stopping to make camp. A faint cool breeze drifted through the convoy as night fell. Many survivors who'd been walking on foot collapsed flat on the ground from exhaustion. To Wang Dong's surprise, Yuan had taken possession of old Li San's motorcycle and ridden it alongside the group with her young daughter clinging to her. The second she'd seen old Li San die, her first instinct had been to claim his bike. When Wang Dong climbed out of the truck, he spotted the shrewd woman pitching a tent beside the motorcycle with a young man. Her daughter stood nearby munching on a loaf of bread. Truly, anyone who survives this world overrun by aberrations must have their own unique survival tricks. Clank. He heard a liquefied gas canister knock against a pebble. Wang Dong hurried forward to set up tables and chairs, watching Xiangzi bustle about. All the wounds covering Xiangzi's body had fully healed. Xiangzi, start cooking. Call me once the food's ready. I'm going to rest in the truck for a bit. Got it, Dongzi? Xiangzi slapped his broad chest to reassure him. Wang Dong smiled and climbed into the pickup's back seat. He shoved the damaged bulletproof vest resting on the seat aside and sat down, pulling out the newly obtained aberration materials to examine them. Item name, Rat Fong, drop from low-tier aberrations. Usable for item reinforcement and fusion. Item name, Rat Pelt, drop from low-tier aberrations. Usable for item reinforcement and fusion. After reading their descriptions, Wang Dong stowed both items in his storage space and leaned back against the seat, closing his eyes. System, open my status panel. Whoosh, the translucent panel materialized before his eyes. Name, Wang Dong Supernatural Sequence. None-bound treasure. Source orb origin power of time-space. 1 unusable energy reserves. Time, 0/space. 86. Reinforcement fusion. Consume aberration materials to upgrade regular items or fuse them into rare curios. Scan. Reveal detailed information of other objects. Rare curios. Stonefang crossbow primordial essence. 5 source chi. 2700 note. Trailing 10 digits of crossbow bolt consumption are not displayed. Wang Dong glanced at his primordial essence and source chi values, grabbed a bottle of mineral water from the truck, and spoke mentally. System, reinforce and fuse the sequence awakening elixir. Detecting materials eligible for reinforcement fusion. Consume 1 primordial essence and 3000 source chi. Insufficient source chi. Reinforcement fusion failed. Wang Dong sighed in disappointment. He only needed 300 more source chi to craft the awakening elixir. Yet the thought that he was so close to unlocking his sequence lifted his spirits instantly. He glanced at the damaged bulletproof vest beside him and hesitated, ultimately deciding against reinforcing it. While upgrading it into a rare curio would boost its defensive power, saving his resources for the sequence awakening elixir took priority. He'd hold off on everything else for now. Thud thud, Xiangzi knocked on the truck window, calling Wang Dong down to eat. As soon as Wang Dong stepped out, a mouth-watering aroma washed over him. He spotted golden pan-fried potatoes simmering in a pot and swallowed hard, his mouth watering. Xiangzi, your cooking just keeps getting better. Hee, dig in quickly, Dongzi. Xiangzi scratched his bald head with a simple, honest grin. Brother Dong, Brother Chong, what are you eating? Long Zai-Zai's calm voice drifted over before she even came into view. She walked toward them clutching 2 bottles of cola. The girl certainly had a sweet tooth. Zai-Zai, come sit and eat with us. Aren't the captain and Brother Shan joining? The captain turned in ages ago, and Brother Shan's resting too. He got injured today. Without waiting for an invitation, the girl set her cola bottles on the table and pulled a bowl out from behind her back. Brother Chong, scoop me a serving. You even brought your own bowl. Xiangzi smiled warmly, took the bowl, and turned to ladle potatoes for her. Long Zai-Zai stared at Xiangzi's burly back, then shifted a few steps closer to Wang Dong, lowering her voice to ask quietly. Brother Dong, why doesn't Brother Chong talk much? Wang Dong watched her lean in cautiously, cupping her mouth to whisper the question. Zai-Zai, people abandoned Xiangzi at an orphanage when he was little because of his strange eyes. That's why he rarely speaks. Just be mindful of how you talk around him from now on. Long Zai-Zai glanced back and forth between Xiangzi and Wang Dong, curious. Brother Dong, how did you meet Brother Chong? Are you blood brothers? Me and Xiangzi? We grew up together in the orphanage. We both took the director's surname. Were you sent there too because you were sickly? Yep, that's exactly why they left me at the orphanage. Oh, that explains why you used to be as thin as a stick. Wang Dong's mouth twitched. Talking to this girl was enough to give anyone heart palpitations. Brother Dong, Brother Chong, I'm heading back. Shaolin's waiting for me. Long Zai-Zai grabbed her bowl of potatoes and left. Eat up too, Dongzi, Xiangzi said. Let's eat together, Xiangzi. Wang Dong bit into the crispy, soft potatoes with a faint natural sweetness. This had been the most ordinary staple food before the apocalypse. Now it tasted absolutely divine. Rustle, rustle. Yuan's young daughter stood off to the side, one index finger pressed against her lips as she swallowed saliva nonstop. Her free hand twisted the hem of her grimy dress, her eyes wide and pitiful as she stared at Wang Dong and Xiangzi eating. Xiangzi twisted his head toward Wang Dong. Dongzi. Wang Dong saw the little girl's longing yet timid expression and spoke in a cold, sharp tone. Come here. The child flinched in fright at his sudden stern voice and spun to run back to her mother. Do you still want the potatoes? The girl froze mid-step, tears welling up in her eyes as she whispered timidly, Yes. Then come over, Wang Dong repeated. She crept carefully to stand beside him. Xiangzi, grab a pair of chopsticks and scoop some potatoes for her. Eat it here, you can't take it away. Wang Dong handed the paper bowl brimming with potatoes into her tiny hands, watching her gobble the food like a little squirrel. If they hadn't looted hundreds of jean of potatoes and other supplies from the village that afternoon, he wouldn't have spared any food. The child barely ate much, and Wang Dong was in a good mood at the moment. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so charitable. He asked gently, How old are you? What's your name? Now that Wang Dong had given her food, the girl lost all her fear of him. She mumbled through a mouthful of potatoes, her words muffled and unintelligible. Wang Dong sighed helplessly. Swallow the food first before you speak. Okay, uncle. My name's Qiao Xinxin. I'm 5 years old. Just then, Yuan's voice echoed through the camp. Xinxin, where are you? The girl's face fell with reluctance as she glanced between Wang Dong and the potatoes in her hands. Wang Dong smirked faintly. You can take it with you. Hurry back to your mother. Xinxin lit up and nodded hard. Thank you, uncle. She clutched the bowl tightly and ran off happily. Watching her cheerful retreat lifted Wang Dong's mood a little. He turned to Xiangzi. Finish eating and get some rest early. We have a long drive tomorrow. Got it, Dongzi. Brother Wang Dong. Thank you for feeding Xinxin. Wang Dong looked at the young woman who'd walked over specially to express her gratitude. He replied flatly, It's nothing. Go on back. Don't let Xinxin wander off alone next time. Yuan's expression dimmed. All right, rest well too, Brother Wang Dong Mercedes. Seeing that Wang Dong had no intention of chatting further, she turned and left. She'd hoped to take this chance to cozy up to him, only to be sent away immediately. What a letdown. Wang Dong's gaze lingered on her curvy, mature figure as she walked off. Damn, if she kept this up, he'd lose his self-control. He shook his head to clear his wandering thoughts. This was no time for distractions. Unlocking his sequence was his top priority. They quickly cleaned up and climbed back into the truck to rest. Xiangzi thought the cab was too cramped and spread a blanket on the ground beside the vehicle to sleep outside. Crash. Rain poured down from the sky as if a giant hole had torn open the clouds. Tap, tap, tap. Heavy raindrops hammered against the truck's metal roof, rousing Wang Dong from a drowsy sleep. It's raining? Oh no, Xiangzi's still outside. He threw open the truck door and spotted Xiangzi shirtless, catching rainwater in buckets, pots, pans, and any other containers he could find. Every vehicle in the convoy flipped on its lights. Survivors cheered loudly, scrambling to collect rainwater with any vessel they could grab. They greeted this rare, life-giving rainfall with unrestrained excitement. It was the first rain they'd seen in nearly a month since fleeing the main survivor base. Brother Dong, Brother Chong, the captain sent me to fetch you. We need to move out right away. Li Xing sprinted over, panting. Did the captain say what's going on? Aberrations. There are aberrations in the rain. Help. Somebody help. Bang. Gunshots cut through the screams before Wang Dong could finish his sentence. Xiangzi, we have to go help. He jumped back into the truck to grab his stone fang crossbow, then raced toward the source of the commotion alongside Xiangzi. When they arrived, terrified survivors were scattering in every direction. By the glow of the convoy's headlights, Wang Dong spotted 2 rain aberrations in the clearing. A mass of eerie blue liquid clung to Brother Shan, who'd partially transformed into a bear man. The liquid entity was completely immune to physical attacks, which kept Brother Shan from fully completing his bear transformation. He could only swat the water mass apart over and over, sending droplets splattering across the mud. But the scattered liquid absorbed falling rainwater, reforming rapidly and lunging back to latch onto his body again. The wounds Brother Shan had only just healed began melting his fur and skin wherever the water touched him. A second water mass hovered nearby, slowly dissolving a human corpse trapped inside its fluid body. Xiangzi's body shifted, ready to charge forward and transform. Bang! A gunshot rang out, blowing the water mass apart, yet it reconstituted within seconds by absorbing more rain. Xiangzi, stay back. Physical attacks do nothing to rain aberrations. If you want to help, go assist Brother Shan instead. Captain Li Qi shouted, gripping a strange revolver. Long Zai stood off to the side, drawing her bow and firing arrows. Each bolt only stunned the aberration for a split second before it recovered. Her continuous shots couldn't kill or injure the creatures, but they slowed their regeneration rate. Wang Dong's rare curio crossbow had the exact same minor stun effect. Then a streak of pale green light shot toward the water monster. The stone fang bolt pierced straight through the rain aberration, freezing its body solid for an instant. Unfortunately, only a small section of its liquid form petrified before the aberration melted the stone fragment away and regenerated. Wang Dong realized the stone bolts barely scratched the creature and switched back to regular crossbow bolts. Xiangzi rushed over to swat the aberration clinging to Brother Shan off his body. The water mass regrouped and latched onto Xiangzi instead, prompting Brother Shan to rush in and tear it off him. Neither of them could deal permanent damage to the aberration. They could only bat it off each other when it latched on. Bang! Another gunshot shattered the newly reformed water mass once more. I only have 3 bullets left in this gun. Does anyone have a viable way to kill these things? If not, we'll have to run for our lives. Li Qi's words were directed squarely at Wang Dong. He knew every other survivor's hidden cards, and Wang Dong was a sequence crafter, their only hope. Captain, I've got a plan. Does anyone have gasoline? Good lad. I knew you'd have something up your sleeve. Li Qi's heart leaped with relief. Dongzi, my school bus has fuel. Go find Xiao Lu to get it. Understood, Brother Shan. Wang Dong sprinted toward the school bus, snatching 2 abandoned beer bottles survivors had left out to collect rainwater. He reached the bus and banged on the door for Xiao Lu to unlock it. Inside, the other passengers huddled soaking wet, shivering uncontrollably. Wang Dong ignored them entirely, ordering Xiao Lu to fill both glass bottles with gasoline at once. He tore strips of fabric from a tattered old jacket he found lying on the bus seats to fashion crude fuses, turning the bottles into Molotov cocktails. With his back turned to the other passengers, he stored both fire bombs in his storage space. System, reinforce these Molotov cocktails. Detected 2 items eligible for reinforcement. Cost, 1,000 source chi. Confirm reinforcement? Confirm. A few seconds later, 2 nearly identical bottles materialized in Wang Dong's palms. Item name, Ember Vessel. Flame will not extinguish until all fuel is burned. Deals massive damage to low-tier aberrations. After reading the item description, Wang Dong lit the fabric fuses. Slung with his stone fang crossbow, he gripped the burning ember vessels and charged into the pouring rain toward the aberrations. Zai Zai, shoot the bottles mid-air. Wang Dong hurled 1 ember vessel at a rain aberration. Bang! Long Zai Zai's arrow struck the bottle as it hovered above the water monster, shattering it and dousing the aberration in gasoline. Whoosh! Crimson flames erupted, engulfing the liquid entity entirely. The rain aberration writhed wildly across the mud, thrashing as it tried to shake off the fire. Xiangzi, Brother Shan, move clear. The 2 men understood Wang Dong's plan instantly. They swatted the second aberration to the ground and stumbled backward out of range. Wang Dong tossed the second ember vessel, raised his crossbow, and took aim. Whoosh! The bolt struck the flying bottle, igniting the second rain aberration in a wall of roaring flame. The group watched the 2 blazing liquid monsters thrash around the campsite, igniting stray supplies only for the downpour to douse the small fires instantly. The rain aberrations gradually stopped moving as the flames burned through their bodies. The survivors all exhaled a collective breath of relief once the fire died down completely. Captain Li Qi stepped forward to collect the aberration remains, glancing at Wang Dong with a curious, probing gaze. All right, everyone's worn out. Brother Shan and Xiangzi are both injured, and the rain's still pouring. We'll discuss our next move tomorrow. Li Qi addressed the small group, and with the rain still falling hard, they all turned in to rest. Wang Dong and Xiangzi walked back to the pickup truck, staring out at the relentless downpour. Wang retrieved toiletries from the storage space, and the pair washed themselves thoroughly right there in the open rain. Once clean, they climbed back into the truck, changed into dry clothes, and settled down to sleep. Leaning against the seat, Wang Dong pulled up his status panel. Primordial Essence, 7, Source Chi, 5200. His heart hammered wildly with excitement. He pulled out the bottle of mineral water he'd kept earlier, stowed it in his storage space, and spoke to the system mentally. System, reinforce and fuse the sequence awakening elixir, adding 1 unit of space force as a catalyst. Detecting materials eligible for reinforcement fusion. Consume 1 primordial essence, 3000 source chi, and 1 unit of space force. Confirm reinforcement fusion? Confirm. A burst of pure white light swirled around the mineral water bottle inside his storage space, fading after several seconds. He focused his will, and an unmarked plastic bottle materialized in his grasp, holding roughly 100 milliliters of glowing liquid. Tiny flecks of light floated up and down within the fluid, as if alive. Item name, Perfect Sequence Awakening Elixir. Effect: grants flawless sequence awakening. Wang Dong downed the entire bottle in one gulp. That's it. I've unlocked my sequence. Before he could process the thought, a surging flood of immense power exploded through his body, and a stream of information flooded his mind. Sequence: God Tamer rank. First tier abilities. 1. Beast Pact. Bind up to 5 ordinary beasts per tier. Lifelong Pact Beast. Form 1 unbreakable bond beast per tier. Share one of its abilities. If your lifelong pact beast perishes, your soul will suffer fatal damage. 3. Beast Tamer's Realm. Your lifelong pact beast may rest within this pocket dimension. Annotation: this sequence paves an unbroken path to godhood. After absorbing all the information, Wang Dong could feel his strength multiply several times over. He could make out every fine crack on the truck's ceiling, and the patter of rain against the vehicle's exterior sounded crystal clear to his ears. He clenched his fists until his knuckles creaked, his whole body trembling faintly. True supernatural power, gained without any hidden cost. I've finally awakened my sequence. Dongzi, are you alright? Xiangzi noticed Wang Dong's subtle trembling and asked with concern. Wang Dong drew a deep breath and exhaled slowly to steady himself. Xiangzi, I unlocked my sequence. Oh, whoa. Bang. Calm down, Xiangzi. Wang Dong held back the overjoyed man, staring at the dent Xiangzi's bald head had smashed into the truck ceiling. Your skull's made of steel, huh? A simple, honest grin spread across Xiangzi's face. What sequence did you awaken to, Dongzi? I'm a god tamer. But from now on, I'll tell everyone I'm just a regular beast tamer. Don't act surprised if anyone asks. Got it. Dongzi, I understand. Now you've got the power to protect yourself properly. You're right, Xiangzi. Wang Dong smiled at Xiangzi, who looked far happier about the awakening than he was himself. Let's get some sleep, we'll talk more later. MHM. Early the next morning, Wang Dong pushed open the truck door and stepped outside. The sky hung heavy and gray, and a cool breeze thick with the stench of damp earth filled his nostrils. Raindrops collected on the truck's roof and dripped down its metal sides. A few survivors tidied up the muddy ground, clearing away debris left over from the previous night's chaos. Others coughed violently as they tried to boil water over damp firewood. Thick smoke worsened their hacking fits. The soft whispers of the Ma sisters, normally inseparable, were nowhere to be heard. Only 2 of the trio remained, busying themselves with chores. Last night, the rain phantom dragged more than a dozen people away in the rain. Someone who'd stepped out to collect rainwater only found their remains afterward. The sound of footsteps splashing through water echoed over. Li Xinglin walked up to him and spoke. Brother Dong, the captain wants you and Brother Chong over for a discussion. Got it. I'll tidy up and head right over. He stopped Xiangzi, who'd been about to start cooking, then brushed his teeth with rainwater they'd collected the night before. It had been half a month since he'd last brushed his teeth. Once finished, he felt instantly refreshed, the strange foul taste in his mouth gone. He called Xiangzi over, and they walked toward a tent not far away. Inside the tent, Brother Shan was skillfully brewing tea. The hideous, flayed-looking wounds he'd suffered the previous night had fully healed without a trace. Brother Shan, why are you making tea? Where's the captain? The captain's still asleep, Long Zai blurted out quickly. Dongzi, Xiangzi, come try the tea I brewed and tell me what you think. This is excellent work, Brother Shan. Long Zai sipped her tea and said, of course it's good. Every time the captain's away, Brother Shan sneaks his premium tea leaves to brew. Brother Shan raised an eyebrow. Zai, just tell me if it tastes good or not. It's delicious. Haha. As long as it hits the spot, no need to nitpick the details. Brother Shan laughed loudly. But I care about my tea leaves. Captain Li Qi yawned as he walked in mid-sentence. Oh, Captain's here. Hee hee. Captain, have some tea. It's brewed quite well, actually. All right, tea's finished. Let's talk about what happened last night. As the captain recounted the previous night's incident, Wang Dong asked a question. Captain, when you sent Li Xing to warn us last night, did you already know a phantom would appear? I wasn't certain. I only had word that we needed to stay alert if the weather turned abnormal. A sudden torrential downpour hit last night, but I'd sensed no rain would fall before I turned in. So once the rain started, I rushed to send the warning for everyone to evacuate immediately. We still didn't make it in time, though. Captain, can that rain phantom conjure such heavy rain all by itself? Wang Dong wondered how 2 Tier 1 phantoms could wield such terrifying power. Not exactly. While rain phantoms can manipulate the weather, they only alter small areas after absorbing human lives. Last night's storm came from abrupt regional weather shifts that drifted in and merged together. By the way, Dongzi, do you have any more incendiary bottles left from when you burned the phantom last night? The captain asked with eager anticipation, and the other team members stared at Wang Dong with hopeful eyes too. Wang Dong met their expectant gazes. Captain, I'm all out of incendiary bottles for now. A collective sigh of disappointment escaped the captain and the rest of the group. But crafting incendiary bottles doesn't carry nearly as severe side effects as making oddities. I can make more very quickly if anyone needs them. Come find me to trade for them once I finish production later. Great, Dongzi. When you make more, let us know. You can pick any of the phantom relics we've collected for trade. Understood, Captain. Now let's go over the phantom relics we recovered last night. We've got 4 total, 2 soul crystals, and 2 water orbs, all tier 1 materials. Take a look for yourselves. With that, the captain laid the items out on the table. The water orbs were blue, looking just like water-filled balloons. Let's discuss how to split these up. I'll say this up front. Dongzi eliminated nearly all the phantoms last night. The rest of us only stalled them for a little while. So I propose Dongzi picks 2 items first. What's everyone's opinion? The other 3 shook their heads in unison. We have no objections. Very well, Dongzi, go ahead and choose. Wang Dong stared at the relics on the table and picked one of each type, taking the blue water orb into his hand. Appraise. Item name, blue water. Dropped by low-tier phantoms. Can be used to strengthen and fuse other items. Brother Sean, can I have the remaining soul crystal? I'll trade you 5 bottles of beer for it. Sure thing, Captain, it's a deal. Long Zai turned to Xiangzi. Brother Chong, do you want a water orb? Xiangzi glanced at Wang Dong. Zai, give your water orb to Brother Chong. Next time I craft incendiary bottles for you, I'll waive 1 phantom relic as payment. Sound good? Deal, Brother Dong. I accept the trade. Then it's settled between us. I've got an announcement for everyone. Our supplies are quite abundant at the moment, and the muddy roads from last night's rain left many people suffering from colds. I plan for us to rest here for 2 full days to recover. Captain, whatever you decide is fine. We'll follow your lead. All right. Anyone want to cook a meal together? Grab your ingredients from your gear if you're joining in. Count us in, Captain. We'll get our stuff right away. The group replied in one voice. Captain, Brother Sean, Zai, does anyone have an extra tent? I'll trade grain for it. Dongzi, I've got a spare tent. How about 20 gene of potatoes for it? Brother Sean offered as he negotiated with Wang Dong. That works for me, Brother Sean. I'll grab the potatoes right now to trade. Got it. Wang Dong and Xiangzi walked back to their truck. He opened the door and pulled a plastic container out of his bag. Xiangzi, take the potatoes for Brother Shan's tent, plus the ingredients the captain's using for cooking. I'm heading to the restroom. All right, Dongzi. At Xiangzi's reply, Wang Dong turned and walked out of the camp. He ducked down into a thick thorn bush, squatted, and pulled the turtle out of the plastic container. Appraise. Creature name, red-eared slider, a healthy young hatchling. He studied the turtle in his palm. Wang Dong channeled the evolutionary power of his lifebound contract to form a pact with it. In an instant, an invisible force surged from Wang Dong into the turtle's body, and its frame began swelling rapidly. Feeling the weight in his hands grow heavier, Wang Dong quickly set it down on the ground. The turtle expanded as if time were accelerated, stopping once its shell reached roughly 1 meter in diameter. Holy hell! This is the power of evolution after forming a lifebound contract. Truly supernatural power. A warm, familiar soul ripple echoed in his mind. The contract info updated to giant red-eared turtle. Boosted defense. Able to spit stone cones from its mouth to attack foes. Wang Dong held off on sharing its abilities for the time being. He pulled an unknown stone orb and giant rat incisor from his spatial storage, placing them on the turtle's shell, then pressed his palm against its back. System, spend 1 point of spatial power to strengthen and fuse this creature. Target creature strengthen fusion requirements. 1 origin point, 6,000 source chi points. Unknown stone orb. Tier 2 incisor, 1 spatial power point. Insufficient source chi. Fusion cannot proceed. Seeing the massive source chi cost, Wang Dong tested different combinations until he locked in a valid set. System, initiate strengthen fusion. Target creature strengthen fusion requirements. 1 origin point, 2,000 source chi points. Unknown stone orb, tier 1 incisor. Confirm fusion? Confirm. A burst of white light engulfed the turtle, fading after several seconds. Huh? Wang Dong stared in confusion, bending to pick up the now shrunken turtle. Its volleyball-sized shell felt as hard as solid rock, its jaws sharp as razor blades. Its head and limbs had thickened, giving it the appearance of a wax-coated stone turtle. Appraise. Creature name, rock turtle creature tier 1 abilities 1. Stone cone. Spit sharp stone cones from its mouth to strike enemies. Lightweight. Passively or actively lighten its body mass slightly. 3. Rock body. Conjure a full stone exterior with extreme defensive power. Current size, 5 meters in diameter. Status. Bound to host via lifebound contract evaluation. A regular red-eared slider mutated and evolved into a rock turtle with immense growth potential. A grin spread across Wang Dong's face as he finished reading the rock turtle's stats. I'll name you Mountain from now on. Understood, Master. A deep, youthful voice echoed directly in his mind. You can understand my thoughts. Yes, Master. Simply speak to me silently, in your mind. Good. Mountain, activate rock body, shrink down to 1 meter, and try an attack for me. As you wish, Master. Wang Dong set Mountain on the ground and stepped back a few paces. A grating creak filled the air as Mountain's body quickly coated itself in rock, shrinking to a 1-meter stone turtle. It opened its jaws and fired a stone cone straight into the dirt. Wang Dong stared at the crater left in the ground and Mountain's rocky shell, his eyes lighting up with uncontainable joy. He burst out laughing heartily. All right, Mountain, revert back to your small form. Understood, Master. The rock covering Mountain's body faded away instantly. Wang Dong stepped forward and picked him up, asking a question. Mountain, how long can you maintain rock body? Master, I can keep it active indefinitely as long as I remain unharmed and do not engage in combat. So as long as your energy doesn't run dry, you can hold the form forever? That is correct, Master. Perfect. Mountain, you're incredible. Wang Dong's heart felt warm and light. He'd initially thought its power would be similar to Qiangzi's stone petrification ability. He never expected Mountain's rock body to be reversible without permanent damage. That unknown stone orb must have been the key catalyst. With that thought, Wang Dong immediately attempted to share Mountain's abilities. Rock body, rock body. He repeated the thought silently in his mind. Moments later, a notification pinged in his head, and he stopped focusing on the ability transfer. His expression fell, like someone who'd won a grand prize raffle only to receive a pack of tissues as the reward. Damn it. He'd imagined unlocking rock body to team up with Qiangzi as the ultimate wasteland duo. Now he'd just have to hide and survive instead. Oh well, lightweight isn't a bad consolation prize. Wang Dong composed himself, feeling as if hundreds of pounds of weight had lifted from his frame. His body felt almost weightless, ready to float off the ground. A lighter body meant faster speed, which would be useful against slow foes later. Still, hiding was always the safer choice. He reminded himself the light sensation was just a temporary side effect of newly shared abilities. He couldn't let overconfidence get him killed when threats appeared. With a spring in his step, Wang Dong walked back to the camp and reached the truck. He spotted Qiangzi setting up a camping tent, with a second fully erected tent standing beside it. Confused, Wang Dong asked. Qiangzi, whose tent is that one over there? Qiangzi scratched his head. You're back, Dongzi. I traded that one from Brother Shan too. Sharing a single tent would have been far too cramped for the two of us. Plus I toss and turn and snore at night. When I saw Brother Shan had 2 spare tents, I traded for both. He chuckled awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. Wang Dong smiled. Good call, Qiangzi. Now we'll both sleep much more comfortably. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. Qiangzi looked at the turtle in Wang Dong's hands, curious. Dongzi, what's this turtle you're holding? Wang Dong snapped back to attention. Oh, I was about to tell you. This is my lifebound beast. It's the tiny turtle I had before, evolved after I formed a contract with it. Qiangzi's eyes widened in surprise. What abilities does your contracted turtle have, Dongzi? Wang Dong explained. Its powers are quite similar to yours, Qiangzi. That's amazing. If I'm ever separated from you, it can keep you safe. Qiangzi grinned happily. We'll both survive this chaotic wasteland together, Qiangzi, Wang Dong said firmly, locking eyes with his friend. Yeah, we'll make it through together. Qiangzi scratched his head sheepishly, as if he'd said something silly. Come on, Qiangzi. Let's go check if the captain's finished cooking. They walked over to the tent and found everyone gathered inside. A spread of prepared dishes laid out on the table. Long Zai spotted the turtle and spoke up. Brother Dong, why are you carrying a turtle? If it wasn't moving, I'd think it was a stone statue. Are we cooking it for extra meat? Mountain, held in Wang Dong's hands, flinched and retracted its head into its shell at her words. Wang Dong let out a bitter laugh and clarified. Zai, this isn't food. It's my newly contracted beast companion. A beast companion? Wait a second, Dongzi. Did you awaken a second sequence? The captain, who'd been listening, suddenly processed the news and stared at Wang Dong in shock, concern lacing his voice. Yeah, Brother Dong, did you unlock another sequence? Brother Shan and Long Zai caught on and asked in unison. You're right, Captain. I awakened it while I was out using the restroom earlier. Silence fell over the group after Wang Dong's explanation. Captain, I'm heading to the restroom again. With that, Long Zai turned to bolt outside with a blank face. Zai, sit down. A second sequence isn't something you unlock easily. Besides, gaining too many sequences isn't always a good thing. Dongzi, does this second sequence come with any severe drawbacks as its cost? Seeing Captain Li Qi's worried expression, Wang Dong quickly reassured him. Don't worry, Captain. The cost for this sequence is fairly mild. That's a relief. The captain sighed in relaxation. Brother Dong, let me get a closer look at your turtle. Long Zai stepped forward, gazing calmly at the creature in his hands. Wang Dong handed Mountain over without hesitation. Go ahead, take a look if you want. Long Zai took Mountain, poking and prodding its shell repeatedly. What's its name, Brother Dong? What abilities does it have? It's so small, can it even fight phantoms? I named him Mountain. He can spit stone cones from his mouth, and he can transform into a massive stone turtle. Does that mean I can ride it later? Her neutral tone lifted a little as she asked. Wang Dong smiled gently. You can ask Mountain to carry you whenever you'd like, Zai. I don't mind, as long as he agrees. Hearing his approval, Long Zai spoke directly to the turtle. Mountain, grow big later and let me ride you just once. Mountain glanced between Long Zai and its master, then fully retreated into its shell and refused to move. Long Zai called its name several more times, but the turtle stayed completely still. Brother Dong, Mountain's ignoring me. She shook the turtle gently and turned to Wang Dong. Wang Dong watched her jostling the turtle hard and sighed helplessly. Zai, you just joked about cooking him for dinner a minute ago, and now you're shaking him roughly. Of course he won't pay you any mind. What do I do then? Wang Dong explained. Mountain doesn't know you well yet. He'll warm up to you with time. Fine then. Long Zai handed Mountain back to Wang Dong reluctantly. Everyone, let's eat first. We can chat once we're full, Captain Li Qi said. Wang Dong immediately dug into his food, determined not to repeat last time. He'd only taken one bite before the others polished everything off. The tent fell silent aside from the sounds of chewing and swallowing as everyone focused on their meals. Wang Dong bit into the food, thinking the captain's cooking tasted even better than yesterday's. The extra seasonings and ingredients they'd scavenged from Huasher Town had elevated the flavor. After finishing, he rubbed his full belly, completely content. As an orphan, he'd never tasted food this good even before the apocalypse. With a satisfied grin, he said, Captain, you're truly a 5-star hotel chef. No food I've ever had compares to yours. Brother Sean agreed. Dongzi's telling the truth. I once hosted dinners at fancy 5-star hotels, and none of their chefs held a candle to your skill, Captain. Long Zai added. Of course Captain's cooking is amazing. If my mom hadn't stopped me, I'd eat at your place every single day. The captain laughed warmly at their compliments. Haha, it's nothing special. Fancy hotels don't always make the best food. Small, old family restaurants often serve far tastier dishes, even if their plating isn't as fancy. I used to travel around trying every eatery I could find to hunt for great food. Whenever I met a talented cook, I'd ask the owner for tips. Some were generous enough to share their secrets with me. That's how I honed my cooking skills over time. It's such a shame this damned apocalypse ruined everything. Forget fine food. Ordinary people can barely stay alive these days. The group fell quiet at the heavy topic. The captain broke the silence quickly. Let's drop this grim talk. With Dongzi's beast companion, we'll be far safer when scavenging for supplies and facing phantoms from now on. Absolutely. Our team just got much stronger, the others echoed. Wang Dong smiled softly at their praise. Yeah, we'll all be safer going forward. Captain Li Qi stood up and yawned. You all keep chatting. I'm going to get some rest. Wang Dong watched the captain walk toward his tent, then turned to Brother Sean with a question. Brother Sean, the captain always looks exhausted no matter what time of day. Is it the cost of his sequence? Brother Sean nodded. You've guessed correctly, Dongzi. His sequence's price is constant drowsiness. My own cost isn't too bad. I lost the ability to feel pain. I just have to be careful not to injure myself fatally during fights. You've probably already guessed Zai's drawback too. She lost the ability to express any emotion outwardly. Xiangzi's price for awakening must have been losing all his hair and going bald. Our group's prices are actually pretty mild, all things considered. Back at the base before, someone awakened a second sequence. The backlash was so brutal they died instantly. That's why we freaked out and asked as soon as we heard you'd unlocked a second sequence too. Dongzi, you've awakened 2 sequences, but I can't spot any backlash on you at all. Brother Sean glanced at Xiangzi's bald head as he spoke, then looked at Wang Dong curiously. Xianzi let out an awkward chuckle and scratched his scalp. Long Zai cut in quickly. Yeah, Brother Dong. What's your awakening price? Can you tell us? Brother Shan stepped closer and whispered into Wang Dong's ear with a grin. Hee, Dongzi, you don't have to say if it's personal. I've heard stories before. Some people lose the most precious thing a man can have as their price. A cold chill shot straight up Wang Dong's spine to the crown of his head, his scalp prickling in shock at Brother Shan's words. He blurted out hastily. Wait, Brother Shan, there's really that terrible a backlash? Brother Shan nodded repeatedly. It's true, such prices exist. So Dongzi, what's yours? He stared at Wang Dong eagerly, clearly dying to hear the gossip. Wang Dong rushed to defend himself. Brother Shan, stop jumping to weird conclusions. I don't have that kind of backlash, nothing like that. What's with that nosy look on your face? Dongzi, I don't mean anything bad. I'm just genuinely curious. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. Brother Shan wore an expression that said I get it, then patted Wang Dong's shoulder with a look of pity. Listening to his so-called comforting words, Wang Dong's face turned completely dark. He roared out loud. Brother Shan, can you quit making up wild scenarios in your head? My only backlash is that my body got stronger, plus my appendix vanished. That's it. Brother Shan's jaw dropped in shock. Holy hell, Dongzi, you got insanely lucky. I'd only ever heard rumors that some awakenings come with beneficial backlash, zero negative side effects. I never thought I'd meet someone like you who actually got that. He clicked his tongue non-stop, eyes full of envy. Dongzi, your luck's off the charts. 2 sequences, both with only good costs. Exactly, Brother Dong. You're so lucky. Long Zai chimed in, nodding vigorously beside them. Wang Dong said proudly, Of course I am. I was scrawny and sickly my whole life. Now that the apocalypse hit, don't I deserve a streak of good fortune? Getting the origin orb, fusing with it and awakening powers. This isn't just ordinary luck. He's practically the child of destiny. What are you all gushing about, looking so jealous and smug? The captain walked over carrying a suitcase and asked curiously. Captain, it's Brother Dong. Long Zai quickly recounted everything that had just happened to Captain Li Qi. After hearing the story, the captain gave Wang Dong a thumbs up. Hell yeah, Dongzi. I've got to say your luck's unreal. I'd only heard tales before, never met anyone who unlocked 2 sequences with 0 harmful side effects. Alright, enough envy from everyone. Listen to the intel I just received. With that, he pulled an old gramophone out of the suitcase. Wang Dong stared at the gramophone, wondering if it was the source of the faint singing they'd heard occasionally before. The captain set the needle down on the record, and static crackled to life. Sizzle sizzle, a man's voice filtered through the noise. Honey, look what I found. Darling, these are sweet potatoes. Where on earth did you get them? Darling, hush and eat quickly. Mommy, I'm hungry. Ting Ting, hold on a little longer. We'll get some food soon. Dad, heavy rain hit the southeast last night. Our water supplies are running low. Should we head that way to search for more? Xiaoya, go get our phone. We'll discuss whether we should go together. Got it, Dad. Sizzle sizzle. Wang Dong felt a strange unease listening to the endless stream of the man's conversations from the gramophone. He turned to ask, Captain, is this gramophone a strange artifact? Exactly, it's one. It randomly captures audio snippets from within a 100-kilometer radius and stores them, once per day. As the captain spoke, he reached to lift the needle, yet it wouldn't budge an inch. A helpless look crossed his face instantly. Sizzle sizzle. The same man's voice blared out again. The 7th set of National Radio Calisthenics, now commencing. 1 2 3 4, 2 2 3 4. With dark circles under his eyes, the captain resignedly started following the calisthenics routine. Wang Dong watched him going through the motions, while Brother Shan and Long Zai stood by. Acting like this was totally normal. This must be the artifact's backlash cost, he realized. No wonder they'd often heard radio calisthenics music coming from the captain's tent before. He'd thought the captain simply loved doing the exercises back then, never guessing he had no choice. Wang Dong and the others waited patiently until the captain finished the entire set. Once the audio cut off, the captain shut down the gramophone at once, then poured and drank a cup of tea like nothing had happened. He looked at the silent group. Ahem, let's talk about what we just heard. A convoy is heading straight for our position. What do you all think? Should we meet up with them and exchange information? I'm in favor of it. Our group's strong enough to hold our own now. We'll follow your lead, Captain, Brother Shan and Long Zai said in unison. The captain then turned to Wang Dong. Dongzi, what's your take? I've no objections, Captain. You know this sort of thing far better than I do. We'll go with your plan, Wang Dong replied quickly. Good. If everyone agrees, keep a sharp eye out for the convoy's movements. Wang Dong asked curiously. Captain, can I take a closer look at this gramophone artifact? Go ahead, Dongzi, nothing to hide. At the captain's permission, Wang Dong stepped forward and examined the gramophone, running his hand over its surface. Scan. Strange artifact name. Sound capturing gramophone. Serial number 10086. Function. Randomly record and store audio within a 100-kilometer radius. 1 recording cycle daily. Hidden backlash. It will randomly play one of 10 sets of national radio calisthenics. The user must complete the full routine along with the music. Failure to follow the movements correctly will result in the artifact seizing the user's voice as payment. After reading the hidden stats, Wang Dong questioned him. Captain, the artifact's cost is forcing whoever uses it to do calisthenics? The captain sighed helplessly. That's right, Dongzi. It'll blast the exercise audio at random, and you have to follow along. If you refuse, the gramophone will steal your voice entirely. The man's voice we heard earlier belongs to its last user. He skipped the routine, so the artifact trapped his voice forever. The captain suddenly remembered the approaching convoy and quickly issued a warning. Also, Dongzi, Xiangzi, when we meet other convoys, try not to reveal your real names. Why's that, Captain? Wang Dong asked in confusion. The captain's expression turned grave. There exist witch and curse-bearer sequence users. They can lay curses on people just by knowing their names. Never give your real name to unfamiliar sequence wielders lightly. Wang Dong had a sudden moment of realization. Understood, Captain. The captain glanced over the group. That's settled then. I'll alert you all if anything comes up. With that, everyone dispersed to their own tents. On the walk back to their tent with Xiangzi, Wang Dong spotted the manipulative old woman and her chubby grandson from earlier still lingering nearby. It was shocking the grandmother and grandchild had survived 2 separate anomalous encounters. The old woman flinched the second Wang Dong's gaze landed on her, hurriedly yanking her grandson far away. Before, she'd hidden behind the rule that no one could attack ordinary civilians. But now Wang Dong and Xiangzi bore awakened sequence powers. She dared not use her age to guilt-trip sequence wielders like she used to. If she truly enraged the 2 brothers, she'd die without knowing how. Hi, Uncle. Wang Dong smiled faintly as Xin darted past them. Back inside his tent, he checked his status panel. 5 origin points, 200 origin chi. His dimensional storage held 2 soul crystals, second-tier stone fangs, rat hides, and 2 globs of blue liquid. Yet his origin and chi reserves were still far too low. He needed to forge a strange artifact for Xiangzi and upgrade their truck. It's far too small for Xiangzi's frame as is. He also needed to keep an eye out for tamed beast companions he could form contracts with. It looked like he'd have to hunt anomalies nonstop. While everyone else ran from monsters as fast as they could, he hoped to cross paths with them sooner rather than later. As dusk fell, the crimson moon rose, and faint pinpricks of light glowed in the distance. The lights drew closer, revealing a convoy of over 200 people heading straight for their camp. Wang Dong and the others gathered to discuss their next move as the convoy approached. The captain instructed them, "Don't speak first when they arrive. Let them make the opening move." They watched the foreign convoy stop 100 meters away. "Captain, that lead vehicle looks oddly familiar," Long Zai said uncertainly. Does it?" Captain Li Qi squinted to study the opposing group. "I think that's Uncle Wei's convoy." "Really? Does Sister Xiaoya come with him?" Long Zai asked excitedly. At that moment, 2 men and 1 woman stepped out from the opposing vehicles. The burly man in the center called out loudly, "Hey, friends over there, care to come out and talk?" "It really is Uncle Wei." Long Zai shook the captain's arm eagerly. "Zai, stop shaking me, I see it's him." The captain stepped forward 2 paces and called across the open space. "Uncle Wei, is that you?" "It's Li Qi." "Li Qi? Little Qi." "Yes, it's me, Uncle Wei." "Haha, I'd never have guessed it was you, Little Qi." Now that they confirmed they were old acquaintances, both groups hurried to meet in the middle. A middle-aged man with a milky gray left eye, a blade slung in his right hand, strode forward and pulled Captain Li Qi into a rough embrace, clapping his back hard. They pulled apart after a moment, and he spoke. "Little Qi, I never imagined I'd run into you after more than a month. Ever since word spread that the Shanghai base became a dead zone, I've been terrified for your safety. I'm so relieved you managed to escape. It's a miracle you're alive." "I'm fine, Uncle Wei," Li Qi smiled. "Uncle Wei, I'm here too. Has Sister Xiaoya missed me?" Long Zai ran over to the woman and called out cheerfully. A pleasant-looking woman in her 20s looked at Long Zai, her voice soft. "Zai, what happened to your face?" "It's nothing, Sister Xiaoya," Just the backlash from awakening my sequence, Long Zai explained. Wei Yan nodded in understanding. That explains it. I was wondering how such a sweet girl ended up with such an emotionless expression when she speaks. Wei Yong, who'd been catching up with Li Qi nearby, heard that Zai had awakened and chimed in. Zai's unlocked a sequence too. Your brother Qi was always worried you'd struggle to survive out here as an ordinary human. Now that you wield sequence power, he can rest easy. Yep, I've got brother Qi to thank for everything. Captain Li Qi felt a strange twinge hearing Zai refer to him as brother Qi with a completely blank face. He quickly cut in. Zai, just call me Captain from now on. The rest of the group exchanged amused grins at the exchange. Uncle Wei, let me introduce our new team members. Little Qi, perfect timing, I'll introduce mine as well. I'm Wei Yong, Captain of the Fair Convoy. Second tier enhancement sequence user. Feel free to call me Uncle Wei or Old Wei. I'm Wei Ya, first tier win listener sequence user. Just call me by my name or Xiaoya. I'm Qin Feng, first tier flame warden sequence user. You can call me Ao Feng. I'm Li Qi, Captain of the Hope Convoy, second tier perception sequence user. Ao Feng, you can call me Captain Qi or Brother Qi. I'm Long Zai, first tier archer sequence user. Just Zai is fine. I'm Su Qingshan, second tier beast shift sequence user. Call me Qingshan or Brother Shan. Knowing they faced old friends, Wang Dong gave his real name without hiding anything. I'm Wang Dong, first tier beast tamer sequence user. Feel free to call me Dongzi. This is my brother Wang Chong, first tier diamond body sequence user. Call him Xiangzi. Haha, little Qi, your team's packed with talented sequence wielders. Wei Yong smiled warmly, staring at Xiangzi's towering over 2-meter frame. Brother Chong here's built like a tank. Xiangzi merely scratched his head and smiled shyly. Don't take it personally, Uncle Wei. Xiangzi's not much of a talker, Wang Dong explained. Oh, no trouble at all. Just then, chaos erupted from the fair convoy's side. Wei Yong said quickly, Little Qi, we need to sort out this trouble first. It's far too late to chat properly tonight. We'll catch up tomorrow morning. Of course, Uncle Wei, go handle your issues. We'll talk tomorrow, Captain Li Qi agreed. Until tomorrow then, Brother Qi, Zai. Wei Ya added as they turned back toward their vehicles. See you tomorrow, Sister Xiaoya. Wang Dong and the others watched them hurry back to their convoy. Brother Shan asked then, Captain, when did you meet Uncle Wei? Long Zai explained. Brother Shan, Uncle Wei used to live next door to Captain and me back then. When the Shanghai base started falling, he knew it couldn't hold. He begged Captain and me to flee with him, but Captain refused. He wouldn't leave me behind. The captain added from beside them. Back then I truly believed the base defenses would hold. That's why I didn't run off with Uncle Wei. Brother Shan sighed deeply after hearing the story. Tell me about it. A base holding over 1 million people, gone just like that. The captain waved a hand to cut the conversation short. Enough reminiscing, Brother Shan. It's far too dark now. We'll hash this out tomorrow. Let's assign night watch duty first. I trust Uncle Wei means us no harm. But anything can happen in the apocalypse. We can't let our guard down. Wang Dong agreed with the captain's sensible plan and spoke up. Captain, I can leave my contracted beast mountain to stand guard tonight. The captain hesitated. Dongzi, can your beast handle watch duty reliably? Wang Dong answered earnestly. Captain, Mountain shares a direct mental link with me. He's more than capable of keeping watch. The captain nodded in approval. Very well, leave night watch to your beast mountain. Everyone headed off to rest afterward. Wang Dong walked over to their truck, summoned Mountain to the roof, and issued orders. Mountain, keep guard tonight. Watch the opposing convoy closely and alert me immediately if anything stirs. Understood, Master. Wang Dong heard Mountain's voice echo in his mind, then climbed into his tent to sleep. The next morning, Wang Dong woke to a gloomy gray sky. The ground had dried hard enough for vehicles to travel across. He spotted Mountain lying motionless atop the truck roof. Mountain, did anything happen overnight? Master, the opposing convoy stayed quiet the entire night. No incidents to report. Good job. Return to your natal dimension and rest for a while. Very well, Master. With a thought from Wang Dong, Mountain vanished from the roof. He nodded in satisfaction. His natal dimension could summon or store his beast freely within a 5-meter radius, convenient beyond words. Xiangzi walked over to him. Dongzi, the captain sent word for us to join everyone for breakfast. Wang Dong nodded. Wait a minute, Xiangzi. I'll grab a few things and tidy up. Xiangzi said seriously. Dongzi, the captain said no need to bring anything. Just come straight over. Wang Dong saw how earnest Xiangzi looked. All right, give me a second. He quickly washed up, grabbed a bottle of liquor, and walked to the captain's camp with Xiangzi. The captain frowned when he spotted them. Dongzi, Xiangzi, I told you not to bring anything. Why the bottle of wine? Wang Dong grinned. Captain, liquor's meant for drinking after all. Besides, Xiangzi and I barely touch alcohol anyway. As he finished speaking, Long Zizai led Uncle Wei, Xiaoya and Qin Feng toward them. The captain waved them over warmly. Uncle Wei, Xiaoya, Feng, come sit. Uncle Wei eyed the full table of food and laughed. Little Qi, I won't stand on ceremony with you. It's been ages since I've tasted your cooking. I'm in for a treat today. Feng, try Captain Li's dishes for yourself and see if I've been exaggerating. He spoke sincerely to Qin Feng beside him. Qin Feng replied, then I'll get to taste just how amazing Brother Qi's cooking really is today. Haha, Brother Feng, pull up a seat and dig in. The captain invited warmly. Everyone sat down and began eating. Uncle Wei, was there any trouble last night? The captain asked mid-meal. Nothing serious. A few refugees tried sneaking food while all our sequence users were away, but we caught them red-handed. Thank goodness it wasn't worse, the captain replied. Qin Feng bit into a dish and sighed in delight. Wow, Uncle Wei wasn't lying one bit. Told you so, didn't I? Eat up, Feng, Uncle Wei said, shoveling food nonstop. Wang Dong watched Qin Feng eating rapidly alongside the rest of the group. He thought back to his first time tasting the captain's cooking, when he'd finished an entire plate alone. Looks like Feng learned faster than I did, he mused. Shoving the thought aside, he focused on finishing his meal. Uncle Wei, slow down and have a glass of wine with me, the captain urged, pouring drinks around the table. Little Qi, wine can wait. I need to fill my stomach first. It's been far too long since I've had a home-cooked meal. I've missed it terribly. The captain smiled contentedly, watching everyone devour the food he'd made, ignoring the wine glasses entirely. Once everyone was full and satisfied, Uncle Wei brought up a question. Little Qi, after I left the Shanghai base, how did it turn into a dead zone in less than 2 weeks? Uncle Wei, casualties piled up relentlessly at the base. You know, anomalies endlessly target stationary groups of survivors. The remaining inhabitants had no other choice but to disband the base entirely, the captain explained. Uncle Wei nodded. I already had a feeling the base couldn't hold. That's why I left early. I'd planned to go look for Aunt Lu, but Xiaoya insisted on coming with me to find her mother. My daughter and I had no idea if we'd even survive out here alone. So I didn't push to bring you 2 brothers along when I left. I was afraid my judgment might be wrong. If the base managed to hold on, dragging you out with me would only get you killed. I never imagined the base would disband less than half a month after I left. I also couldn't find your Aunt Lu, and more ordinary survivors ended up following me. That's why I formed this convoy, and we've wandered this region ever since. Uncle Wei finished speaking with a heavy sigh, sipping his liquor as he talked. Uncle Wei, let's not dwell on the past. The most important thing now is to keep Xiaoyu alive and safe. Come on, Uncle Wei, drink up. Everyone, raise your glasses too. Hearing the captain's words, Wang Dong picked up his wine cup and took a sip. He glanced at Uncle Wei, who still clung to thoughts of his missing wife. Wang Dong turned to glance at Xiangzi beside him. Xiangzi met his eyes and smiled knowingly. Wang Dong was glad he was an orphan with only one brother. Otherwise, he might be wandering everywhere searching for family, just like Uncle Wei. Uncle Wei, how about our 2 convoys trade some supplies later? The captain asked the man. Sounds good, Xiao Qi. Do you have extra water? I'd like to trade for some later. We can spare some, Uncle Wei. Both groups immediately got to work. The 2 convoys lined up roughly 10 meters apart, setting up makeshift stalls to barter goods. Wang Dong walked over to Uncle Wei's truck with Xiangzi. Uncle Wei, what's your rate for gasoline? Each barrel holds 30 liters. How about double the volume of water in exchange? Uncle Wei proposed tentatively. Wang Dong shook his head. Uncle Wei, you know how long it's been since it rained here. We only got a tiny bit of rain last night. What if I trade an equal amount of water plus 10 gene of potatoes for your gas? Uncle Wei nodded. Deal. Food's always welcome. How many barrels do you want? 3 barrels. After finishing the gasoline trade, Wang Dong and Xiangzi wandered between the stalls. A clear gap separated the 2 convoy survivors. Thanks to the heavy rain and supplies scavenged the day before, Wang Dong's group looked far healthier and more rested than Uncle Wei's people. Wang Dong traded for several daily necessities as he browsed. Toward the far end of the line, he spotted a girl squatting on the ground, offering a hamster in exchange for food. He stepped closer. What do you want for this hamster? At the sound of his voice, the girl lifted her head and stared at him, utterly shocked. You're... Wang Dong studied her face. She had clear, stunned eyes tinged with hesitation and delicate, sweet features on her palm-sized face. She looked even younger than Long Zizai. Wang Dong frowned, racking his brain, There was something oddly familiar about her, like he'd seen her somewhere before. Yet he was certain they had never met. He couldn't figure out why the feeling lingered. He pushed the thought aside and repeated his question about the hamster. The girl snapped back to reality, stammering quickly. "Oh, big brother, just give me whatever food you can spare." Her gaze never left Wang Dong as she spoke. Uncomfortable under her unwavering stare, Wang Dong traded 5 jin of potatoes for the hamster. He walked back to their tent with the hamster, Xiangzi trailing beside him. Xiangzi stared at Wang Dong's face over and over, unable to hold his tongue any longer. "Dongzi, that girl looks an awful lot like you now." Wang Dong froze at his words. He saw it instantly. The girl shared at least 60 to 70% of his current facial features. His appearance had only changed a few days prior, which explained why he hadn't made the connection at first. He spun around to look for her, only to realize she'd quietly followed them the entire time, unnoticed. The girl stood tall, nearly 170 centimeters. "Do you need something?" Wang Dong asked, confused. The girl hadn't expected him to turn so suddenly. She stumbled back a few steps in fright, then spoke timidly. "Big brother, is your surname Wang?" "That's hardly hard to guess," Wang Dong replied flatly. "Big brother, are you an orphan? Do you have a red butterfly-shaped birthmark on your back?" Shock washed over Wang Dong. "How do you know that? Who are you?" Tears flooded the girl's eyes the second he answered. She threw herself into his arms, sobbing brokenheartedly. "Wu, brother, I finally found you. Wu." Her ragged, hiccuping cries echoed nonstop. Wang Dong's mind went completely blank. A moment later, he felt his chest grow damp with her tears and roughly pushed her away. He stared at her tear-streaked face, his voice cold. "You've mistaken me for someone else. I'm not your brother." The girl burst into heavier sobs at his rejection, streams of tears pouring down her cheeks. "You are my brother. When they found you, you only had more than 200 yuan on you. I got every detail right. Why won't you admit it?" She wailed even louder. "If you keep crying, I'll take your potatoes and leave you to starve," Wang Dong snapped harshly. "Woo-woo." Terrified he'd steal her food, the girl clamped a hand over her mouth. She trembled violently, silent tears still spilling endlessly down her face as she stared at him in fear. He looked at her, stifling her cries behind her palm. "Stay far away from me from now on. I'll say it one more time, I am not your brother. Don't seek me out again." With that cold statement, Wang Dong turned and left. Xiangzi glanced back at the weeping girl, then silently followed after him. Wang Beibei sank to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably as she watched his retreating figure. Wang Dong strode up to their tent and was about to step inside when Xiangzi's worried voice reached him. "Dongzi, are you all right?" Wang Dong faced away from him. "I'm fine, Xiangzi." He ducked into the tent without another word. Xiangzi lingered outside for a while, then sighed deeply. Inside the tent, Wang Dong tossed and turned, his thoughts a chaotic mess. He'd lived alone his entire life, and now a girl appeared claiming to be his sister. Why had they abandoned him at the orphanage as a child? And why had this sister suddenly turned up only now? Two conflicting voices argued in his head. One hissed, "You've always been alone. Where would a sister come from? This is all a lie." The other countered, "That really is your sister. She knows about your birthmark and the 200 yuan. If you abandon her, how will she survive alone in this apocalyptic world?" The first voice retorted, "Even if she's your blood sister, what does that have to do with you? Your family never cared for you. They only track you down now that she's suffering." The second shot back, "Don't listen to that nonsense. She's your bloodkin. None of this is her fault. The fact she searched so hard to find you proves she truly sees you as her brother. Who else will look after her if you don't?" "Shut up." Wang Dong clutched his throbbing head and shouted out loud. He jumped to his feet, stormed over to the pickup truck, grabbed the last bottle of liquor, and chugged it straight down. The fiery alcohol burned his throat, flushing his face bright red as he coughed violently. Moments later, he stumbled dizzily back into the tent. Xiangzi watched quietly from outside, standing guard without pressing him for answers. Evening fell. Wang Dong slowly opened his eyes, overcome with vertigo. The tent spun wildly around him, and nausea churned in his stomach. He grabbed a bottle of mineral water beside him and chugged several mouthfuls until the sickness faded. A steaming lunchbox sat nearby. He knew Xiangzi had left it for him. Sighing, he thought, "I have no appetite, but in the end times, I have to keep my strength up." He shoveled the food down quickly and finished the remaining half bottle of water. He exhaled in relief, feeling much better. Stepping outside the tent, he spotted Xiangzi sitting alone, lost in thought. Xiangzi perked up the moment he saw Wang Dong emerge. "Dongzi, are you okay now?" "Don't worry, Xiangzi. I'm fine." A weight lifted from Xiangzi's shoulders, yet his expression turned hesitant, as if he had something to say. "What is it?" Wang Dong asked, noticing his struggle. That girl got into the Ma sister's car. She's joining our convoy from now on, Xiangzi said, watching Wang Dong's reaction closely. Strangely, a quiet sense of relief washed over Wang Dong at the news. He muttered to himself, half asking Xiangzi, "Do you think I should take care of this sister?" Xiangzi scratched his head, unsure how to respond, then spoke gently. "I don't know what you're thinking, Dongzi. All I care about is you being happy." "Happy, just follow how I feel," Wang Dong thought, a faint look of ease softening his features. He breathed out slowly. "Let's leave her be for now. Did the captain or the others come looking for me?" "They stopped by to ask how you were doing. I just told them you were upset and resting," Xiangzi answered truthfully. "All right, I understand. You get some rest too. We're leaving tomorrow." He walked back into the tent and looked at the hamster in its cage. Wang Dong reached out and forged a contract with the creature. Once the bond was complete, the hamster seemed a little smarter, a faint, muddled consciousness flickering within it. It could only follow simple basic orders. A regular contract held no power to evolve beasts. He laid down to rest, replaying Xiangzi's simple, wise words in his mind. Sighing, he resolved to let everything unfold naturally from here on out. The next morning, after breakfast, the two convoys prepared to part ways. Uncle Wei wore a conflicted expression, clearly holding back unspoken words. The captain asked quickly, "Uncle Wei, is there something you wanted to say?" Uncle Wei shook his head. "Nothing much. Take good care of yourselves from here on." "You too, Uncle Wei." They exchanged final goodbyes, and Wang Dong watched Uncle Wei's convoy drive slowly away. He turned to the captain. "It looked like Uncle Wei had more he wanted to tell you back there. He wanted us to travel alongside him, but he was terrified he'd put us all in danger. That's why he held his words back. He's been lingering around this area hoping to find Aunt Lu. I couldn't make a choice with such an uncertain outcome on everyone's behalf without asking the group. Besides, the more survivors we gather, the greater the risks we face. All right, everyone. Pack your supplies. We're hitting the road," the captain explained before ordering the group to prepare. Wang Dong's gaze drifted to Wang Beibei, who stood beside the Ma sisters. Her face washed clean as she helped pack their belongings. When she caught his eye, she offered him a sweet smile. Wang Dong's face remained blank as he turned back to sorting his own gear. Watching his unchanging, cold expression, Wang Beibei cheered herself up silently. "Beibei, stay strong. Big brother's distant because our parents abandoned him as a child. If you treat him well, he'll accept you one day." Ma Man comforted her beside her. "Don't worry too much, Beibei. Your brother will warm up to you eventually." "Yeah, exactly. Stick with Sister Man and me for now," Ma Xiaodo chimed in, looping her arm through Beibei's. "Thank you, Sister Man, Sister Xiaodo," Wang Beibei said gratefully, squeezing both their hands. "Now hurry up and pack. We're departing soon." The convoy traveled on, stopping periodically to rest for 2 full days. By dusk on the second day, they reached a stretch of woodland and came to an abrupt halt. The captain's voice crackled over the convoy radio. "Alert! Something's wrong. All guards stand post." A raucous commotion echoed from the trees. Moments later, a horde of terrified survivors burst out, sprinting for their lives. Spotting Wang Dong's convoy, they screamed for help and ran faster toward the vehicles. Only then did everyone see the twisted figures chasing them. Wraith corpses. Thick black veins bulged beneath their skin, their pupils milky white, no trace of living humanity left in their bodies. Twisted mutated animals with the same deathly aura mixed in. Wraith corpses. "Stay sharp," the captain warned over the radio. His voice followed immediately after. "Brother Shan, Dongzi, move out. This horde is weak. We can wipe them out. Out of my way." Brother Shan roared as he transformed into a bear man and charged forward, shouting to clear the fleeing civilians from his path. Xiangzi shifted into his stone giant form and rushed in right behind him. The pair smashed wraith corpses to pieces with single punches each. Wang Dong summoned Mountain. "Mountain, unleash your full strength and attack." He raised his stone-toothed crossbow, took quick aim, and pulled the trigger. Screams of fleeing survivors clashed with the sounds of brutal combat across the clearing. Mountain, transformed into a stone tortoise, shook the earth with every heavy step as if earthquakes rippled through the ground. It spat sharp stone cones non-stop to pierce the corpses. Thanks to its lightweight passive skill, it moved far faster than its size suggested, crushing small wraith beasts under each foot. Wang Dong and Long Zai fought side by side, picking off minor wraith targets with every bolt they loosed. Even the faster mutated animal corpses fell easily to their coordinated attacks. A single gunshot boomed out. "Watch out, there's a wraith cat here," the captain shouted urgently. Wang Dong twisted to see the beast, leopard-sized, 2 swollen sacs bulging from its neck. Hit by the bullet, the Wraith Cat spun around and snarled at the captain. The captain's hand twitched, swinging his gun to aim straight at Wang Dong instead. Ugh! The captain snapped out of the illusion spell instantly. Everyone be careful. This cat can cast hallucinations. Wang Dong loosed a flurry of arrows to block the cat from pouncing on the captain. Realizing it could not defeat them both, the Wraith Cat swerved to attack the unarmed crowd instead. After slashing down several survivors, an arrow from Wang Dong pinned it to the ground, draining its unnatural life force. Wang Dong turned and charged the remaining Wraith corpses. When Mountain crushed the last corpse under its weight, every survivor let out a collective breath of relief. The clearing lay in ruins, littered with broken bodies. Only shaky, relieved sobs broke the silence. Mountain's so huge, Brother Dong. Long Zai wandered over to Wang Dong, staring wide-eyed at the stone tortoise. Wang Dong glanced at her fascinated gaze. Zai, why don't you talk it into letting you ride on its back? Great idea. Long Zai spun on her heel, ran to her red off-road truck to grab a bag of snacks, then hurried straight back to Mountain. Wang Dong watched as she chattered to the tortoise. Somehow, she managed to climb onto its massive shell. Meanwhile, the captain gathered up scattered supplies and walked over to the shaken refugees. Where did you all come from? Why were the wraiths chasing you? Silence fell over the crowd. After a long pause, a middle-aged man stepped forward cautiously. Sir, we're from a convoy called the Hope Convoy. Our sequence-awakened fighters couldn't hold back the horde, so they abandoned us and fled on their own. Hope Convoy. Wang Dong and the others exchanged a glance. The name was painfully generic. Dozens of convoys used the exact same title. Everyone turned to stare meaningfully at their captain. The captain coughed awkwardly. Ahem, just call me Captain. Our group's also named Hope Convoy. If you have nowhere else to go, you're welcome to join us. What? Another Hope Convoy? What do we do now? Chaos erupted among the refugees at his announcement. The captain roared to quiet them. Stop arguing and settle down. Anyone who doesn't want to stay can leave freely. I won't stop you. Our convoy's rule is fair trade. No one is forced into anything. The refugees whispered amongst themselves to weigh their options. In the end, several groups with functional vehicles chose to depart on their own. Wang Dong watched them leave, thinking every adult must bear responsibility for their own choices. The refugees who stayed were in far worse shape than Uncle Wei's group. It was clear the original Hope Convoy had treated them terribly. Very well, you're officially part of the Hope Convoy now. All supplies you scavenge belong solely to yourselves. No mandatory hand-ins. Thank you. Thank you. Captain Lee, you're a truly kind man. Cheers erupted from the crowd, overjoyed they could keep all their scavenged goods. The captain waved off their gratitude. All right, get your things sorted and prepare to move out. Li Xing, take a head count immediately. We leave as soon as you finish. Right away, Captain. Li Xing rushed off to tally the new survivors. They set off again shortly after the count and drove deep into the night before stopping to rest. They would have traveled until dawn if not for the new refugees slowing their pace. Once everyone climbed down from the vehicles, the captain spoke up. I'll share a meal with our new arrivals tonight. Otherwise, they'll lack the strength to keep up tomorrow. Rest assured, this comes from my personal stock. No one else needs to contribute supplies. We've lost dozens of members to eerie attacks before. Even with these new additions, our total numbers still sit under 200. Traveling in a larger group will boost our safety moving forward. No one objected. None were required to give up their own rations. With the group's approval, the captain sent Li Xing to cook dinner. He then pulled out the 2 eerie drops they'd collected from the battle. We only got 2 items from the fight. A first-tier Wraith Cat Soul Crystal and a pelt. Let's discuss how to split them. Captain, how about I trade an extinguisher bottle for both items? Wang Dong offered. The captain looked surprised. Dongzi, you can craft extinguisher bottles now? How many can you make? I can supply 1 for every person here without trouble. The captain nodded. We'll trade you these 2 drops, but you'll need to give us 2 extinguisher bottles in return. Sound fair? Wang Dong added. Make it 3 bottles total. I still owe Zai an extinguisher bottle from last time. The captain and the other awakened fighters conferred briefly, then the captain spoke. We're taking advantage of you this round, so we won't haggle. From now on, standard trade will be 2 drops per bottle. Works for me, Captain. Wang Dong smiled and nodded. The captain and Brother Shan pulled out an extra soul crystal, beast pelt, and giant bone to complete the trade with Wang Dong. After receiving the materials, Wang Dong said, Captain, I'll bring the extinguisher bottles over once I finish crafting them. Great. Will you 2 stay for dinner? The captain invited. You're not even cooking yourself. What food would we eat? Long Zai cut in bluntly, calling him out. Li Xing's in charge of cooking right now. The captain defended himself. Brother Xing's cooking can't compare to yours, and it's just mass-produced slop anyway, Long Zizai retorted. Wang Dong and Brother Shan said they'd prepare their own food to avoid troubling the captain, and the group split up. The captain watched them walk off, sighing helplessly. My little brother's cooking isn't half bad, honestly. Inside his newly pitched tent, Wang Dong sorted through his traded eerie materials, storing all the common first-tier drops in his spatial storage. Only then did he notice Mountain, who'd sealed itself inside its stone tortoise shell hours earlier without a single movement. Mountain, Master, what do you need? Relieved to hear the tortoise's voice, Wang Dong asked quickly, What's wrong with you? Why have you been sleeping nonstop? Oh, Master, Sister Zizai gave me something called alcohol to drink, and all I've wanted to do is nap ever since. What? Zizai gave you liquor? Wang Dong stared in shock. Yes, Master. Am I not supposed to drink it? Mountain, besides being sleepy, do you feel unwell anywhere? Wang Dong pressed urgently. Mountain's voice came out thick and drowsy. Not really, Master. Just tired. I feel much better now. Wang Dong instructed firmly. If Zizai ever offers you alcohol again, come tell me first. Don't drink too much, understood? Understood, Master. Wang Dong shook his head, thinking Zizai was far too reckless. He'd have to keep Mountain away from her from now on. He checked his system panel, 9 origin points, and 17,200 source chi. His spirits lifted instantly, like he'd struck a fortune. Wraith corpses were barely first-tier threats, so they yielded minimal origin and source chi, but the combined total was still a valuable haul. Calming his excitement, he spent 3,000 source chi to craft 6 extinguisher bottles. He then pulled out a fire axe and a bulletproof vest torn by stone wraith beasts, combining them with his leftover eerie materials for fusion enhancement. Axe plus second-tier fangs plus first-tier giant bone. Costs 2,000 source chi 1 origin point. Bulletproof vest plus first-tier beast pelt plus blue spirit water. Costs 2,000 source chi 1 origin point. It seemed fusing the first primary item consumed no extra source chi. As Wang Dong mentally confirmed the enhancement fusion command, 2 bursts of white light flared up. Seconds later, 2 brand new unique artifacts materialized. Unique artifact, Giant Bone Axe. ID number, 1137. Abilities, 1. Indestructible razor sharp. The axe body is ultra sturdy, the blade razor-edged, dealing massive damage to all eerie creatures. 2. Self-repair. The axe can absorb other supernatural beast bones to mend cracks. Repairs are impossible once damage exceeds 30% of the weapon. Adaptive size. The axe shifts dimensions to match its wielder, adjustable to 5 times or 1/5 of its base size. Status. Automatically bound to owner. Hidden cost. None. Wang Dong inspected the axe. Intricate white bone patterns covered its frame, the blade broad and terrifyingly sharp. It perfectly matched to Qiangzi's stone giant abilities. He moved on to examine the second artifact. Unique artifact, Water Cloud Armor. ID number, 1314. Abilities, 1. Flexible lightweight. Boasts strong defensive power, lightweight, highly flexible, resistant to tearing. Rapid regeneration. As long as at least 1/3 of the armor remains intact, absorbing water will restore it to perfect condition instantly. Status. Automatically bound to owner. Hidden cost. None. Haha. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. My defense is fully covered now. Chuckling to himself, Wang Dong slipped the armor on at once. The Water Cloud armor had a streamlined design, brown-gray leather etched with swirling blue wave patterns. It weighed no more than a regular cotton t-shirt, unbelievably light. Both artifacts far outshone the captain's gramophone. It appeared all cost-free natural unique artifacts bore low ID numbers. Wang Dong glanced at his stone-tooth crossbow, then stowed it back into storage. It still served him well for the time being. He needed to save his remaining source chi for other upgrades. He stood, unbound the giant bone axe from his own aura, and stepped out of the tent. Walking to Qiangzi's tent, he called out, Qiangzi, come out for a minute. Qiangzi emerged immediately. Wang Dong held out the bone axe to him. This is your new weapon. Drip a drop of your blood onto it to bind it to you. Qiangzi followed his instruction, letting a single drop of blood fall onto the axe. The red liquid seeped fully into the bone frame and vanished. A flood of information instantly filled Qiangzi's mind. He blurted out excitedly, Dongzi, this is a natural, don't say it out loud. Wang Dong cut him off. Just keep it to yourself. Never mention it to anyone, got it? Got it, Dongzi. He grinned widely, swinging the axe wildly through empty air to vent his excitement. Watching Qiangzi's uncontainable joy, Wang Dong smiled softly. Play with it for a little while, then get some rest. Okay, Xiangzi replied without turning his head, still swinging the axe nonstop. Wang Dong shook his head helplessly and left to deliver the extinguisher bottles to the captain and the others. When handing Long Zizai her bottle, she looked up and asked, Brother Dong, do you have any more extinguisher bottles to trade? You want another? I can only spare one more for you. Before Wang Dong finished speaking, Long Zizai pulled out the beast fangs she'd received in their last trade. Wang Dong stared at the two fangs she held out, surprised they'd circled back to him. He traded her one more extinguisher bottle, then returned to his pickup truck. System, enhance and fuse this pickup into a fully enclosed armored vehicle. System prompt. This fusion requires 1x first tier rat fong, 1x first tier cat pelt, 1 spatial power shard, 1 origin point, 9,000 source chi. Confirm fusion? Wait a minute. Damn, that's an absurd amount of source chi. After the upgrade, I'd only have 1,200 source chi left. A sudden thought struck him. Generating crossbow bolts from his stone-toothed crossbow also drained source chi. The fully enclosed rear compartment would demand massive extra energy reserves. Wang Dong reluctantly canceled the enhancement plan, resolving to wait until he found a substitute material for the compartment shell before attempting the upgrade.